Alrighty. Let's finish this game, maybe. I really do not know. So, I wonder. Oh, it looks like you could just reload past chapters to get. I took the lambs and left Shanju. Leaving the city was easier than expected. The guards at the gate didn't bother to ask questions. One of them, looking tired, just waved us through as if driving flies away, making our prepared stories pointless. Once outside, we headed north towards Haijiao, about 30 miles away. Taking these lambs to Haijiao will take at least 3 days. Another long journey ahead. We'll likely be in the mountains for the next few days. The silver moon shone bright and stars scattered across the sky. At night, we lit a campfire and I gave the lambs their food. Once they finished eating, I grabbed a shovel from the pack horse's bundle, ready to complete a task I had left undone. We're far from any towns here, so anything buried won't be easily discovered. I'm planning to bury Tongue. Planning, so does that mean we're not going to? The shovel lifted the tough soil, dust swirling. I dug beneath a tree. Once the hole was ready, I unpacked the meat and dropped it in piece by piece. With the meat buried, I then filled the hole with the shovel. After burying people before, I'd usually split quick to meet up with Tongue. But this time, after burying him, I didn't leave immediately. Instead, I stuck the shovel in the ground and stared at the freshly made mound for a long while. I even sat down, keeping the company of the buried guy for a spell. Didn't do much, just kept my eyes locked on that hole. Life sure throws some curveballs, huh? Never imagined I'd be here with Tongue like this. The person who would previously wait for my return is now resting right before my eyes. After the deed was done, I headed back. After 50 steps, I was back at camp. Qianghua approached me, seeming like she had something on her mind.
良夜，
What's up?
有点困了，想去睡觉。
Sure, go ahead.
可是绳子还没绑。
Qianghua motioned to her waist, showing it was bare without any ropes. As a rule, I would have tied ropes on them before they slept. She wanted to remind me so I wouldn't forget. Never mind. No more ropes. Tying and untying you every day is a hassle. Unless we're tackling steep slopes, no more ropes. Now that Qianghua and the others know about the new rule. Qianghua looked surprised, and the other lambs gathered around, curious.
哎，良夜，星爷去哪儿了？
Oh, they still don't know? I thought we told them. Tongue asked me, curious. Since last night's meal, she hadn't seen Tongue, nor had I mentioned him. Then why did... So were the aliases just between the made-up story? I thought we'd coalesced, and I'm forgetting what happened last night. We had a fight yesterday, and he got mad and left.
星爷之后不回来了吗？
Nope, he won't.
星爷，
Tongue dropped her head, looking downcast. What, you still want him around?
我还是希望星爷在的。星爷一开始的时候特别凶，但是最近几天就像是变了一个人，开始对我们好了。昨天你和水姐姐快回来的时候，他还说等到了洛阳要给我买小玩物的。
It was all an act. Playthings? Who knows if he'd actually get any. He just wanted you to go to Liao Yang. Don't trust him.
啊，真的是这样吗？
I subconsciously argued against Tongue, trying to remind them that Tongue wasn't a good person. Then I thought, nah, no need to go further. She's too young to get it. And Tongue's already buried in peace, so why disturb him? Enough talk for tonight. Time to go to bed. We'll have a long journey tomorrow. I yelled out to the lambs, signaling an end to the conversation with Tongue. They obediently settled down to sleep after hearing this. I stared at the fire, just about to doze off when a thought hit me. Back when Tung was here, we took turns staying awake. When I slept, he stayed up, and vice versa. But now that he's gone, there's no one to take turns with. Now that I think about it, maybe we don't need shifts anymore. Before, we took turns to keep an eye on the lambs, to stop them from running off while we slept. But now we've built trust with each other, so there's no need to worry about them running away. So the only real reason remaining for shifts is to watch out for bandits and beasts. At night, bandits hardly ever move through the mountains, and the road from Shanzhou to Haijiao is pretty safe. And beasts usually steer clear of fire, so there's not much to worry about from them.
良夜，睡不着吗？
As I stared into the fire, Mansui's voice came from the other side. It was across the fire from me, looking at me with a smile. Nope, about to turn in. I was just getting sleepy and then you woke me up.
这么早睡，今天不打算做点什么吗？
You mean shadow play? I realized what she wanted to do with me. Along the way, she had taught me shadow play. But without the right items like drums and gongs, our performances felt incomplete. And we couldn't make puppets without extra sticks and donkey hides, so we could only perform the three heroes battle Lu Bu. I had bought everything we needed while in Shanzhou. There was so much happening these past 2 days, I forgot all about it. Now that we have everything, are we going to learn tonight? And despite getting little sleep last night, I felt quite awake. Let's learn tonight. Well, let's find a spot. I told Mansui, then dug out the wooden box and drum from the pack horse. I handed the drum to Mansui and carried the wooden box myself, walking with her away from the camp. We found a spot about 50 steps from the camp. I unpacked the wooden box and set up the frame and white screen, while Mansui fetched fire from our main camp to light a new one. Once the flames flickered to life, I glanced around. Oddly, I had a feeling. The more I looked at the tree beside me, the more it looked like the one where I had buried Tung earlier. Too much of a coincidence. Venturing 50 steps into the night, only end up back here? Ugh. Could it be Tung's spirit wanting to watch our performance? After all, both Mansui and I kept it a secret from him. He's never seen it before.
良夜，今晚想学什么？
I want to cover all the topics I couldn't learn before, like making puppets and drumming.
好，那先学制作小人吧。良夜想做什么样的小人？
Not sure. Name me some plays.
我会的戏也不多，只会三英战吕布、武松打虎、哪吒闹海。
Are those all your dad taught you?
对啊，我又不是要做戏子的，用不着这手艺来谋生。爹爹便只教了这3个。
Alright, let's do Wu Song Fights the Tiger. Let's make the tiger first. I told Mansui what I wanted, and she nodded before getting to work. Mansui sat on the ground with a wooden box in front of her. One by one, she picked up all the necessary items from the wooden box. A small knife, 2 brushes, 3 pieces of donkey hide, and 4 bottles of dye. After taking out the items, she closed the lid of the box and spread the donkey hide on top. Using her fingers, she smoothed out the hide, then pressed down with her knuckles. Loud-ass car. And rubbed it repeatedly. Once the donkey hide was all flat, she took out one of the brushes. It had a really sharp tip, probably for sketching. She stared blankly at the donkey hide for a moment before she started to draw. Using the fine brush, she carefully outlined the tiger's general shape on the donkey hide, then went on to add details like the tiger's tail, head, and limbs. Before long, I saw she had roughly drawn the tiger's appearance. Is this supposed to be the tiger? Looks more like a sick cat to me. Standing aside, I commented with a frown. The last tiger drawing has all its limbs and some resemblance, but it lacks patterns and presence.
一会儿镂刻上色完成后，就像大虫啦。
Mansui explained to me. Then she started the next step, carving. She took a deep breath, grabbed the small knife nearby. She held down the hide with her left hand and pressed the tip of the small knife onto it with her right. With focused attention, she kept knife steady while gently guiding the hide with her other hand. The hide was pushed around the tip, and with strenuous effort, the piece she had outlined with thin strokes was peeled from the whole bit by bit. Huh, impressive craftsmanship. Must have helped your dad plenty before. I couldn't help but give praise. Mansui got startled by my sudden noise. With a bit too much strength, her left hand made the knife tip nick the tiger's throat. The hide tiger seemed as if its throat had been cut, with the head and body split apart, just like tongue buried nearby.
完了，这张漏废了，都怪梁爷突然和我说话。
Oh, trying to fucking blame me? Mansui looked down at the donkey hide on the wooden box, feeling disappointed. She blamed me, and she had a point. I didn't expect that carving required so much concentration. Sorry, you can carve another. I quietly apologized to her. She didn't answer me, just took out another piece of donkey hide and started carving on the wooden box. This time she was more focused, drawing first with the brush and then carving with the knife. Maybe she was nervous. Sweat began to appear on her forehead. Her eyelashes trembled. I stayed aside quietly, not saying anything. It was dead quiet around us, but if you listened carefully, you could hear more. The rustling of the wind sweeping through the trees, the crackling of the flame burning in the campfire, the continuous chirping of bugs, and the held breaths we deliberately muffled, all of them were fairly clear. After carefully carving the new tiger she drew, she picked up another brush. This brush had a thicker stroke. She opened the dye bottle, dipped the brush in a bit of water, then dipped it into the dye and carefully applied it to the donkey hide tiger.
这里是红色，这里是茶色，这里则是黑色。
She leaned over the wooden box, quietly singing as she was painting. At that moment, she was rather childlike. Soon after, the tiger was filled with color.
梁爷，做好了。
After finishing the coloring, she put the brush down. Let me see. I stepped up to her and checked out her artwork. Not too shabby. She crafted a big tiger crouched on the ground. The tiger's head is really expressive with a mean look in its eyes. Just a tad skinny though, kind of resembling a mean cat. Not bad. Ready to try Wusong next? I praised her and was eager to see her go on to craft Wusong.
武松不好做。
Didn't expect her to look worried all of a sudden. Why's that?
看过的那3场戏，走兽我基本都会画，但不会画人。
Doesn't that mean that besides the tiger, you can't draw anything else?
也不是啊，我还会画赤兔马呢。
Okay, she's got a point with Lubu's horse. Seems like she wasn't too sure about drawing people. Isn't there the Lubu puppet in that box? Why not try copying that?
身形倒是能临摹的相似，但我不知道武松长什么样，该怎么办呀？
That's a problem, isn't it? I let out a sigh. We fell into a short silence.
对了，梁爷，我想到一个主意。
She suddenly perked up again. What's the idea? I looked over at her.
我可以照着梁爷画武松。
You think I look like Wu
不
Song?
知道，但想试试看。我画画一直都没有什么想法，若是空想，什么也画不出来。可若是照着临摹，10分能有9分像。
Sure, give it a shot. And she was in the mood to draw, and I was keen to see Wu Song as well, so I had her give using me as a model for drawing a shot. 10 out of 10. I'd like to see what she'd come up with copying my countenance then. I sat down before her. She sat too, then spread out another piece of donkey hide. She scrutinized me carefully, her eyes stuck on me. At first, I thought we were staring each other down, so I glanced away uneasily, trying to look at her out of the corner of my eye. But then I saw she wasn't just staring at me. She was really scanning my face, my shoulders, my whole figure before she started sketching Wusong. Gotta admit, putting her heart into the work when it came to drawing those puppets. What kind of Wusong will she make modeled after me? I hope he's absolutely yoked. After an incensed stick of time, she finished drawing Wusong. I glanced at her newly colored Wusong. This Wusong really resembled me. Every detail from the eyes to the nose and even the hairstyle and expression was the same. The only difference might be that the puppet in the shadow place seemed to have broader shoulders and wore a tiger skin skirt. We didn't mind that Wusong was wearing a tiger skin skirt before he even fought the tiger. This puppet was quite well done. It looked pretty lifelike, evoking Wusong's fierce determination and boldness. I guess she might have recalled my expression from when I killed Tung yesterday, and depicted it like that. Lovely. Looks good. Some parts look like me, others like Wusong. I gave praise to her drawing, and she seemed happier. With all the puppets done, did we string them onto the bamboo sticks next?
还不行，染料还得干一干，等干透了后，还要裁剪一番才能穿到竹签上。
Alright, seems like we won't be performing the new play tonight. Should go get some sleep now.
梁叶呢？不回去睡吗？
Not tired yet. Strike while the iron's hot. I want to try your method. And make a red hair for Lu Bu.
那我也先不睡了，陪一会儿梁叶，帮你看看。
Alright. I sat down, and so did she, watching me
梁
draw.
叶，用这个，动刀前要先用细笔画一遍。
She gave me the fine brush. I took it. One hand on the donkey hide, the other ready to draw. But after waiting for a long time, all I managed was a single dot on the hide. Nope, you better head back and hit the hay. Can't get anything done with someone watching. I awkwardly said to Mansui. It's true, with her staring at me, I just couldn't get the brush moving. As an adult, if my drawing turned out worse than this last's, it'd be pretty embarrassing. And to be fair, I will give her Wusong, which I admit was actually pretty good, 9 out of 10. I figure I just don't have that drawing talent.
好，那我去睡了，梁叶也要早睡。
Mansui said, nodding at my awkwardness before heading back towards the camp. Phew. Finally, I'm alone now. So, how do I draw red hair? I thought hard, remembering the stagecoach horses I had seen, and started sketching. The next day, last night, after finishing drawing red hair, I went back to camp to sleep. I slept restlessly without Tung to take shifts with. I kept feeling like someone might come by, every rustle catching my attention, so I didn't sleep well and had a dreamless night. When the morning sun hit me, I set out again with the lambs. As we walked, I thought about the shadow play and what was next for the lambs. The sun rose high, then dipped behind the peaks. We traveled north for 6 or 7 hours and arrived again at nightfall.
梁叶，我想看看你昨天做的赤兔马。
Later that night, after the other lambs had gone to sleep, Mansui and I returned to our second camp 50 steps away. Once we had the fire going, she was all eager to check out the red hair I drew yesterday. Could be better, I said plainly, pulling out the red hair from the wooden box and passing it to her. She took the red hair, examining it cautiously.
大致不错，挺有赤兔马的感觉，就是小了点。
Let me have a check. I fetched the Lu Bu puppet from the wooden box and held it up beside the red hair. It's true, the horse I made was a bit small. Lu Bu looked twice as big as the horse, riding with a strong grip, like he was carrying it all along as they ran. It may give him a sense of power as he rides, but it looks like the horse could easily be crushed. Not very realistic. Yep, it's a tad small. I'll sketch another red hair later, but first, got something to ask you.
什么呢？
How do you play the drums?
哦，锣鼓很好奏的，弟弟教过我，随着演出的节奏，把握重要的时机就好。人物登场的时候要奏得稳一些，打斗的时候奏得快一些，说词儿的时候奏得缓一些。
Got it. I'll give it a shot next time. She explained it straightforwardly. Makes sense now. If it weren't for the risk of waking up the sleeping lambs, I'd give it a shot. But before trying out the drums, I'm more eager to see her perform a bit. How about you perform Wusong Fights the Tiger? I suggested to Mansui.
好，
She nodded and began organizing the items needed for the performance. She took out the bamboo sticks and threaded the puppets onto them. To help her start the show faster, I also set up the wooden sticks and the white screen. Mansui put on a show of Wusong Fights the Tiger for me. This time she hummed softly as she performed. But it was obvious she wasn't as familiar with the words of Wusong Fights the Tiger as she was with the three heroes battle Lu Bu. A few times, she forgot the words and just kept humming instead. I watched closely how she manipulated the puppets and imagined the drum beats in my mind. Later, at her request, I copied her moves and performed a bit myself. She watched carefully and gave me tips.
梁叶学东西还挺快的，有模有样的。
Hell yeah, I am. Oh. You're a good teacher, too. Today was quite something. Just a pity we didn't try the drums to avoid waking the lambs.
那我们再跑远点，去试试看。
Well, never mind. We shouldn't go too far lest we lose sight of the camp. Gotta keep an eye in case beasts attack the camp or a fire breaks out.
那梁叶，我倒有一个想法，
What's that? What do you have in mind?
明天要不要让他们看我们演影子戏啊？
Mansui's eyes sparkled as she proposed. I think for a moment, yeah, that could be good. We started doing shadow play secretly in order to avoid Tongue. But now that Tongue was miles away, we didn't have to worry about hiding anymore. Hey, want to see some shadow play? On the third night since leaving Shanjiao, after handing out rations, I suddenly brought it up to the lambs. They all turned their heads to look at me curiously.
梁爷，影子戏是啥？
影子戏是啥？
Shadow
是吗？
play? Queer! Hong'er seemed clueless about what shadow play is. Queer wasn't just clueless, she even assumed shadow play was some kind of food.
我知道影子戏，梁叶竟然会演。
After I spoke, Xianghua asked curiously. Oh, at least her question made me feel a bit less awkward. I've been practicing with the last for a bit. Now we're almost set to perform together, so we figured we'd invite you all to watch. I nodded towards Mansui beside me.
我和梁叶好几个晚上都在练，练了好久了。
Mansui nodded as well.
好啊，你们演吧，很想看四儿姐和梁叶演的戏，
想看影子戏？
想吃影子戏。
Queer! The lambs all seemed really excited, although Queer might not quite get what shadow play is yet. Okay, let's start with the three heroes battle Lu Bu. I told the lambs, then took the wooden box off the pack horse. I set up the frame, hung the white screen, and put the puppets on the bamboo sticks. Before we had to sneak away to do these things, but now we could do it openly for the lambs to enjoy.
梁叶，那你来操演，我来奏锣鼓。
Sure, and when you play the drums, it would be nice if you could sing a bit.
我唱不好。
Mansui hesitated, picking up the drums while glancing at me anxiously. Give it a shot, just to set the mood. You can sing softly. I told Mansui and she nodded in agreement. While adjusting the frame, I saw her quietly mouthing words as if practicing singing secretly. Again and again, she concentrated her efforts on practicing diligently. Seems like she really wants to sing well for these lambs. I'm ready. After everything was set, I whispered to her. Then I sat behind the white screen, hiding myself. Mansui sat next to me, holding the drum. Lambs in front of the screen by the fire looked on with eager eyes. In my left hand, I held two bamboo sticks, guiding Zhang Fei's serpent spear in battle. With two more sticks in my right hand, I steered his legs and horse, urging him onward. Clang, 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 clang. And rhythmic drumming filled the air. I looked over and saw Mansui starting to drum.
白袍无价素宝镜，丈八蛇毛手内为。
Yeah! As the drums rolled, she chimed in with her voice. This time, though still hushed, it carried more intent. It wasn't just a hum anymore, she was genuinely singing. Maybe she hadn't practiced much before. Maybe she just watched her dad perform. But to make the shadow play enjoyable for the lambs, she was giving it her best shot. Shadow play needs teamwork. She acted seriously, so I had to keep up. I focused on controlling Zhang Fei. He wielded his serpent spear bold and fierce at the city gates. I imagined a brave hero with a leopard-like head. With bated breath, I moved the sticks, controlling the puppets, their shadows dancing on the screen. I brought my vision of Zhang Fei to life on the screen. Mansui played the drums softly while singing along, and I followed her lead. I brought Zhang Fei onto the stage and then introduced Lu Bu, Guan Yu, and Liu Bei all one by one. The lambs were all eyes, watching the screen intently as they clapped along with Mansui's drumming, adding to our performance. However, when it came time to control two characters battling at once, my hands couldn't keep up. I struggled to manage with only one hand per character, making my movements stiff and awkward. Mansui noticed I was having a tough time. She kept singing, but got up, handed the drums to Changhua and Hong Er. The drums still sounded as the other lambs took Mansui's place, while she sat beside me. Taking Lu Bu from me, she joined my Zhang Fei on stage. Serpent Spear clashed with Heaven Cleaving Painting Halberd. What a fucking name! As they rushed back and forth, fighting each other to their heart's content. As the battle reached its climax, Mansui began to sing again, while the lambs in front of the white screen intensified their efforts. As they tried to keep up with our pace, their drumming grew somewhat chaotic. Even though the rhythm got messy like the random falling of raindrops, it still added to the fun. Before the screen, drums thumped steadily, while on it weapons clashed and figures swirled in a frenzy of action. The screen was a spectacle of fantastic action, and we all lost ourselves in its shadow and sheen. The three heroes' battle Lu Bu was done. The stick puppets drooped like they lost their spirit, plopping onto the stand. She stopped singing and the lambs put down their drums. Even afterward, the lambs were still excited for quite a while. For Hong Er and Kui Er, it was their first shadow play experience. They were curious how we controlled the puppets in battle, so they eagerly peeked behind the screen. For Changhua, it was her first time seeing a shadow play, since she'd been away from her family for so long. I don't know when she last saw one. The wistful look on her face gave the impression she was reminiscing about something special. For me, this show seems to have finally brought me out of the shadow of the past. Explosions were replaced by drum beats, cries by laughter, and the fire's crackling took on new meaning. The shadow play overshadowed the nightmare. My haunting past, the explosion in the 6th year of Qianqi, is slowly becoming something I can face. Hell yeah! Soon after, the lambs dozed off. Mansui and I tidied up our things in the wooden box and had a brief chat.
良夜，
What's so funny?
他们挺喜欢我们演的戏呢，不仅看得投入，还等我们一起演。刚才演到最后的时候，我们倒像是一个戏班子了。
A bandit with 4 little girls isn't much of a troupe, though. I laughed softly, replying to Mansui. After saying that, my smile suddenly froze and I stayed silent for a while. Just now, without realizing it, I didn't call them lambs, but used the term girls for the first time. Oh, we are their dad now. They're our children. They're our girls. We're gonna keep them safe. This is not gonna end happily, is it? The story doesn't have a... That surprised me and made me feel a bit uncomfortable about the change. Sure, I've made up my mind to protect their lives and not sell them off as lamb dishes anymore. When I reach Haijiao, I'll still have to sell them to make money, so shouldn't I avoid getting too close to them? In the end, I'm still a bandit. Mansui seemed to catch on to my different way of talking in the sudden pause. She didn't say anything about it, just quietly put the wooden boxes in the pack horse's pack. A bit later, I thought she was going to sleep, but then she suddenly asked me a question.
话说良夜，有件事我还是很想知道。
What is it?
良夜说过，你和你爹曾因今后要做什么而闹矛盾。很久以前，在那一场大爆炸发生之前，在良夜小的时候， 你想成为什么样的人呢？
You still care about that, huh? She sure doesn't let things go easily, remembering that I didn't tell her back then. That's my own secret, and it's been so many years since then, there isn't much to say about it.
为什么呀？
I was getting fed up with her constant pestering, and then she spoke up again.
那这样吧，良叶若是同我讲你的这个秘密，我也告诉你一个我的秘密。
Her secret? This lass had seemed to be hiding something from me all this time. If I could find out, it might put my mind at ease. I could agree to this exchange condition. Fine. It's just an old dream from back then. Now it has long disappeared. Doesn't hurt anyway. I let out a sigh. This lass did arouse my curiosity. I really wanted to know her secret, so I gave in. When I was coming of age, I loved watching plays. They often featured different kinds of heroes, some like gods, some generals, some knights errant. The first two seemed too distant to me. I knew I couldn't suddenly gain supreme powers, and I didn't feel I had the talent to lead armies into battle. So I always dreamed of being a wandering hero. One person, one set of clothes, and one sword. I dreamed of traveling around, doing good deeds, fighting the lofty, and helping the weak. I wrapped up sharing my dream. Yep. My dream back then was quite naive and pure. Just like most boys around, I wanted to be a hero. Mansui didn't seem too surprised, like she already knew my dream. Then, after a moment's thought, she asked me a question.
那为什么良叶现在没这个梦想了？
She asked, her tone serious, no more playful expressions. I gave a wry smile, because in this world, there is no place for a hero to thrive. After the disaster that year, I fled the famine, and everything I saw and heard during that journey shattered my dreams. Those who died were often righteous and kind, while those who survived were selfish and cunning. Heroes thrive in times of peace and perish in times of chaos, while villains thrive in chaos and perish in peace. Clearly, we're in times of chaos. I said these words blandly. I've told you what I dreamed of. Now, it's your turn to spill the beans. What's your secret? I glanced at Mansui. Fair is fair. After hearing about my crushed dreams, she got to tell me something too.
好，讲之前想先说一句，抱歉之前骗了良叶。
Mansui lowered her head slightly, seeming remorseful. Huh?
其实我之前跟良叶说爹娘在洛阳等我，是骗良叶的。
You shall be the fellowship of the ring.
Thank you for the follow.
我的爹娘早就死了，现在家里只剩我一人了。姐姐死后，爹娘曾去闹，吞妖派人断了他们的粮，爹娘没多久就饿死了。
She doesn't have a sister though.
我拿了他们最后留的粮，一路逃荒，死里逃生，才到了化州。
She said these words with indifference. Finding out all this suddenly, I felt that it was unexpected, yet reasonable. She always seemed off, traversing a great distance and risking her life in revenge for her sister when her parents were still waiting for her didn't add up. Turns out they weren't waiting, they were gone. That's why you had to go to Liaoyang for revenge.
家里的人都死了后，我本来也没想独活。我活到现在，就是为了有一天能亲手报仇。
Well, I had asked, and she replied steadfastly. While her voice held strength and determination, it was nevertheless tinged with a sorrow I could hardly understand. We felt quiet, no more words between us. It wasn't until tonight that I was told everything. She's still freaking lying to us. I never knew we were the same. Lost our homes in the chaos, both orphaned and alone. While I became a wandering villain drifting with the tide, she turned into a vengeful spirit bent on revenge. Thinking back to our first meeting when she tried to stab me and I spanked her, I was able to better understand why she had such a forlorn manner back then. I told her then, lie to me and I'll wipe your family out. Just went quiet and walked off alone like a stray cat. Because the family was gone. Nothing left for me to hunt down. Could I help her get revenge? Or persuade her to forget it? If I were her, could I stop myself? Or could I find the guts to go for revenge? I didn't know. With so many questions spinning around, I finally fell asleep. The excitement from the shadow play was gone, and depression took its place. I couldn't wait to dive into dreams and lose myself in the void. That night, I slept deeper than ever. Oh, we're gonna have a dream, aren't we? Dream sequence? No? Oh, a pouch. Oh, great. Yeah, this is gonna be about the pouch we found at the very beginning of the game. Dad and I walked along the mountain path, leaving 2 sets of footprints, one large and one small, marking our journey on the trail. I was constantly scared on our way back home. We kept seeing people walking in the opposite direction. Sometimes it was just one person, and sometimes it was a bunch of people gathered together. Their clothes were tattered, and they looked thin. It seemed like they hadn't bathed in a long time, and they had an unpleasant sour smell. They appeared famished. They kept staring when they saw us. I couldn't tell if they were looking at the basket in Dad's hands or at me.
爹爹，这些人都是做什么的？
After avoiding them by a good distance, I nervously asked Dad.
他们都是逃荒的人，饿坏了，惦记着咱们的食物。回家之前，无论何时你都不能乱跑，要一直在我身边啊！
Dad replied gravely and reminded me. I nodded and held Dad's hand tightly. I could sort of guess what Dad meant. Those people were starving, and they needed money to buy food. If they kidnapped me, they would definitely sell me for food. After the long and frightening journey, Dad and I arrived home in the evening. As soon as we got home, Mom and my younger brother came to greet us.
回来了，带了多少粮
？1根苞米棒子，2颗白菜，3斗米。
挺好啊，只要演一晚就能赚那么多东西。
不是，看戏的人给不了那么多，只给了1根苞米棒子，其他东西都是买木箱子换的。
哦，卖了就卖了吧，等灾年熬回去，我们再去找找，兴许能买回来。你不在的时候，我整了整家里的东西，找到了之前说的那镯子，还有几件衣服。再过几天，你再去镇子一趟，把这些都当掉吧。
行。
Oh, I thought he was really determined not to sell that bracelet. Three days later, Dad went to the neighboring town again. This time, I didn't follow him. Dad pawned Mom's bracelet and sold all kinds of things from our home for some food. This time, Dad and Mom got into an argument after he got back. Mom didn't believe that the bracelet could only sell for 600 copper coins. She complained that Dad didn't know how to do business and was tricked by others. Dad said he did his best to bargain and was only able to sell it for that price after visiting many places. Mom also asked if Dad could go into town and claim some relief food. She once heard from the neighbors who fled that court would distribute relief food in times of disaster. Dad then said that those were all a bunch of nonsense, or else the neighbors wouldn't have fled. In times of disaster, commoners could only see the tax officials who regularly came to collect taxes, never the people who handed out relief. Even if this relief were really to come from above, it would either be eaten up layer by layer or end up in the hands of the officials' relatives and acquaintances. In the eyes of the emperor and the high-ranking officials, they were concerned with the vast expanse of the 9 provinces, but once decrees were issued, they turned a blind eye. As for the low-ranking officials, they only wished for the calamity to drag on. The longer the better. Come a disaster, they could climb the ranks. Come a disaster, they could amass fortunes. That's why whenever a great disaster struck, neither the emperor suffered, nor the major officials, or the minor bureaucrats. Instead, it was countless commoners who bore the brunt of it. I didn't understand any of this. However, I knew that Dad was definitely different than before. Last year, when the disaster had just struck, the uncle from the neighbor's house was still around, and Dad used to chat with the neighbors often. The uncle from the neighbor's house would complain about the courts adding additional tax demands, angrily cursing the corrupt officials and the incompetence of the emperor. At that time, Dad would still speak up for the court, saying that the Ming were fighting against the eastern invaders, and the commoners should be sympathetic and share the country's hardships. Now, perhaps because we've been sympathetic for too long, we ourselves were starving to death. He wouldn't say such things anymore. One night, I had a dream. I dreamed about Grandma. Grandma, dressed in gray clothes and gray shoes, was looking at us from afar while standing in the mist. Her gaze was fixed upon us while she smiled, but she didn't utter a word. I want to see the flowchart here. Huh. Why does it say Finish Sweet Chapter 7? That's not going to add up to Chapter 7. I called out to Grandma, but she suddenly vanished, her figure concealed within the mist. Thunk, thunk. The dream ended and I woke up. As I lay in bed, I suddenly heard the sound of shoveling dirt. At first, I thought I heard it wrong, so I turned around and tried to sleep some more, hoping that I could meet Grandma again in my dream. The sound of shoveling dirt became even clearer. That was when I knew I wasn't hallucinating. Rubbing my bleary eyes, I first lifted my little brother's legs off my stomach, then sat up in bed and headed toward my parents' bed.
爹爹，娘，
Oh,
快
he's
醒醒！
digging up that heirloom that they're not supposed to sell. I nudged Dad and Mom with my hand. Oh, no.
什么事儿啊？
Is Grandma coming out of the grave? Dad was nudged by me and he slowly opened his eyes, looking a bit confused.
有铲土的声音，好像是后院传来的。
I slowly said to Dad while pointing toward the backyard through the window. After hearing what I said, Dad first squinted his eyes and tilted his head to listen. Then his pupils gradually winded and his body began to tremble. Dad didn't say a word. He suddenly pulled open the door latch, grabbed the hoe, and dashed out the door. I followed him out of the door and saw two people with shovels, hastily escaping.
贼你娘！杀了你们！
Dad, holding the hoe, cursed loudly in their direction. He was so angry that he tried to chase after the two, but the hoe in hand was so heavy that they seemed to vanish into the thin air before he could catch them. Dad came back panting heavily, carrying the hoe. The two were gone, leaving behind a hole in the ground. Oh no, someone stole. It was the hole Grandma was in. It hadn't been completely dug out by them. But I stole a glance and saw that Grandma's clothes were already visible in the hole. Wait, then what did they steal?
怎么了？那么大的动静啊！
After Dad returned, Mom also ran out of the house, looking scared.
有俩瓜怂，拿铲子踩跑咱们后院的地，
他们想挖什么？
还能是什么？肯定是娘留的传家宝啊！
Dad said in rage, but from what I could tell, I felt that perhaps it wasn't the family heirloom they were trying to dig up. The spot those two were digging was where Grandma was buried, and Grandma's clothes were already showing from the digging. Perhaps if I got closer, I could even see her body. Grandma came into my dream probably because she wanted to wake me up and have me remind Dad that she was getting dug up. But I still couldn't wrap my head around it. What would those people do if they dug up Grandma? After those people left, Dad was angry for a long while. He recalled what they looked like and came up with a few names. He was going to get the authorities involved to help him search for them, but he returned shortly after leaving the house. He said that on second thought, he couldn't go to the authorities. He was afraid that if he did, we'd have to hand in our food again. He kept on cursing, but there was nothing else he could do. Another 2 weeks or so went by. We had thin porridge mostly, with the ear of corn and cabbage for one meal halfway through. Every day I didn't get enough to eat, feeling hungrier and hungrier. At times it felt like there was a fire burning in my stomach. At other times it felt like there was a lump of black water churning inside, disturbing any sense of peace. When I got hungry enough, I didn't even feel hungry anymore. only exhausted. Once exhausted, I wanted to sleep. I slept on the bed, hoping I could have some good dreams where I could eat till I was full. I imagined that our family's wheat grew back again, tall and strong. I wanted to have a dream like that. However, the feeling of hunger was always there. Even if I dreamed, it wouldn't take long for me to be aroused by hunger. My brother was also hungry, and he had it worse than me. He was so starved when he was supposed to be growing that his condition became serious. One day I noticed there was something wrong with him. When I called his name, he was dazed for a long time before he responded to me and gave me a blank stare. His pale face had a tinge of red, but his eyelids were constantly drooping as if he really wanted to sleep. I sensed something was wrong, so I touched his forehead. His forehead was hotter than burning charcoal.
姐姐，好冷。
Oh, he's dying. My brother looked at me as if he was about to cry. I hastily called out to Mom, who was making porridge, and she ran over in a hurry. Mom reached over and touched my brother's forehead. Her face instantly started to turn pale.
当家的，彩儿病了！
Mama called out loudly for Dad, and upon hearing Mama's voice, Dad quickly ran over.
当家的，彩儿这样怎么办呢？如果不赶快找郎中开药，彩儿的头会越来越烫，这该如何是好啊？
现在哪有钱找郎中啊？
是啊，该卖的东西都卖了，没什么可以卖了。这样下去，要不了多久，2个娃子都要死了，我们也要死了。
那我能怎么办？
贵，算我求你了，你快把那玩意儿卖了吧。
不能卖。
不能卖，贵，你就别把它当传家宝了。只有彩儿活着，这传家宝才能传下去啊。
它不只是传家宝，爹娘一直在说，那东西是神仙给咱们家的，卖了要遭报应。
报应？现在的报应还不够吗？彩儿都饿出病来了，要死了，没药没粮，她就要挺不过去了。我们都快家破人亡了，全家快死绝了，你要断子绝孙了，还谈什么报应？那你非要留着这个，不如把穗儿卖了吧。
Whoa, fuck you, Mom! Damn!
你带着穗儿去甘泉，甘泉不行，再往南边走，找个大点的城镇把穗儿卖了。
Mom shouted loudly at Dad. It was my first time seeing Mom speaking to Dad in such a loud voice. Not only did Dad change after my brother got sick, Mom also seemed to turn into a different person, especially at the height of her frenzy when she mentioned selling me. Was that something she said to provoke Dad, or did she really mean it? Probably meant it. Damn! Oh. Oof. Mom was different from Dad. She always loved my younger brother more than she loved me. Since I could neither carry on the family name nor gain status through the imperial examination, she told Grandma more than once that I was a money loser. She would definitely sell me if it would save my brother's life.
爹爹，娘。
I felt sad when I thought about it, and I called out for my parents from a distance.
哪怕是死，我也想和你们死在一起。求求你们不要卖了我。
I walked toward my parents and said to them in a trembling voice, I wanted to change my mom's mind and ask my dad not to sell me. I stood there, head lowered, my body trembling. My eyes were red, but the tears didn't fall, as if caught in my eye sockets. Dad turned around and looked at me in a daze. He pressed his lips together and furrowed his brows. He looked at me, then my brother and my mom. Every time he looked at us, his gaze seemed to avoid us like he was afraid, only daring to linger for an instant. He kept looking at us like that for a while. Dad wanted to say something but stopped himself before he could utter a single word. He closed his eyes as if he was making a really big decision. He then opened his eyes again and looked up as if he didn't want his tears to fall either. Eventually, he looked at me again, his previously dimmed eyes lit up.
孙儿乖，爹爹一定不会卖你的啊！也不要说什么死不死的，哪怕爹爹死了，也不会丢下你，不会让你和彩儿死的。我这就把后院的传家宝挖出来，拿去卖了。若是爹娘泉下有怨，神仙降下报应，全算在我头上。
He walked up to my side and stroked my head.
爹爹，爹爹。
I heard what Dad said, and I couldn't hold my tears anymore. I threw myself into Dad's arms while I choked back sobs and kept calling him. Dad, taken aback by my sudden embrace, hesitated for a second before stretching out his arms and pulling me close.
孙儿乖，你不会饿死的，你会活下来，一直活很久。以后啊，等你长大了，爹爹给你找个好人，他会是能保护你的，你也看对眼的人。找个好男人照顾你，对你好，爹爹也可以放心养老了。
He held me close in one arm, his other hand gently patting my back. He spoke to me softly, his voice full of tenderness.
爹爹。
I buried my head in Dad's arms and wept. I liked Dad. He had always been as good to me as he had been to my brother, and had never harbored the thought of not wanting me. Dad is the best. Yeah, fuck you, Mom. Piece of shit saying to sell me. A day later, my brother had some thick porridge and ate some cabbage, and he actually got better. His forehead was not as hot, and although he still looked very weak, there should be no need to rush to find a doctor. But even so, we still don't have enough food to last the year. Dad said we still need to figure it out. At dusk, Dad dug up the family heirloom in the backyard. I initially thought it would be something shiny gold or emerald green like the jewelry Mom once had. As it turned out, the family heirloom was just a strange piece of meat. The meat was grayish white and looked like fatty pork, but was more translucent. It had traces at the bottom like annual rings. Perhaps I was hallucinating, but I felt like it was squirming slowly. It truly seemed a treasure given by the deity. What the fuck? Dad first placed the family heirloom on the bed and kowtowed to it 3 times before wrapping it up with an old piece of clothing. Dad then took an ear of corn and some silver pieces as he was getting ready to leave. He planned to go south and find out how much he could sell the family heirloom for, in Ganshan first. If it wasn't worth much there, he'd keep going south and ask around in the large towns.
家里的粮还够吃1个多月，我这次出行大概要花上10几天。若是彩儿和穗儿病了，就给他们喝点浓粥，多加点白菜。连云，照顾好孩子，也照顾好你自己。
Dad left a few reminders for Mom. He then carried the bundle with the family heirloom in it on his back, turned around and walked toward the door.
爹爹，
I called out to Dad.
哎，怎么了，穗儿？
He turned around and smiled at me gently.
这个给你。
I walked up to him and stuffed a pouch in Dad's hand. The pouch was really small, only as big as Dad's palm. It was red. The fabric came from a corner of my dress. I had just sewn the pouch this morning. I swear to God, are there gonna be initials on this fucking thing? While Dad was still sleeping, I sewed it. I hoped this pouch could stay by Dad's side in my stead. I hoped it could keep Dad safe and allow him to come home early.
缝得真好，谢谢穗儿。
Dad then took the pouch and stroked my head. He then turned around again, put on his straw hat and the bundle, and kept walking forward. He took a few steps forward but stopped all of a sudden, as if he had forgotten something.
孙儿，才儿，在家要听娘的话，爹爹很快就回来。
Dad said those words with his back facing us, his voice seemingly carrying a subtle hint of sadness. After that, Dad left. My brother and I leaned against the window, watching him. His shadow grew longer and longer under the sunset, his figure receding into the twilight. I watched as Dad became smaller and smaller, shrinking from the size of a bowl to a fist, then to the size of a soybean, until he disappeared completely. Dad vanished at the end of the horizon, fading into the endless mountains. 10 days later, Dad didn't come back. A month later, Dad still hadn't returned. Oh, fuck. 2 months later, we were starving to death. Dad still wasn't home. Dad didn't honor his words. He said he was going to be back in a couple of weeks, but he never came home. We killed her dad, didn't we? Like, I've had the suspicion...
良爷，救我！
Like, I've had this suspicion for, like, I think kind of from the moment we started getting Suier's backstory chapters. Started thinking like, oh, we must have killed him. The further we get, the more I think we definitely fucking killed him in Liang's prologue. Also, hello, Clay. In the foggy ruins, I heard a voice. It sounded like a man, humble and panicked. How can I help you? I asked the man who spoke.
吃的，给我点吃的就行。良爷啊，我3天没吃东西了，咱都是从京城一路逃荒过来的，行行好，救命，救命！
He was kowtowing to me, on his knees, banging his head against the ground, eyes all red from hunger. I'll share some food with you, but not a heap, just enough for 2 days. I reached out from the darkness and passed him the food I had produced from nowhere. Who was this person? I couldn't rightly tell who he was by his hungry mug. Misty scene swiftly crumbled away. A new setting sprang up from the ground, appearing abruptly before me. It was a run-down old mansion. The mansion's gate lay smashed open, the courtyard strewn with broken rice jars, and the ground littered with mutilated bodies. Among these bodies were children, elderly ones, landlords. Okay, well, the landlords... That's not so bad. But everyone else, that's kind of fucked up. You know, the landlords can, you know, they're landlords. I don't much like them. So, and they're just full of concubines. All of them lay with their throats slit in pools of blood, while several bandits sat in the distance. Some perched on collapsed house beams, others on makeshift chairs fashioned from corpses, laughing and chatting about the recent carnage. I recognized them. The leader of these bandits was none other than the starving man I had rescued not long ago. Killed their whole family.
对啊，杀了他家快10个人吧。兄弟们抢粮又杀人，还和他的妻妾快活了一把。良爷呀，我们也是被逼无奈呀。这些大户都一个样，一点同情心都没有。我们一来要粮就把门封得死死的，一颗米都不愿给。兄弟们在门边候着，他的家丁还从门里扔石头，把很多兄弟都砸得头破血流。我们呢，都是从饿死的人堆里爬出来的，再等下去也是饿死，不如抢他娘的。
There's a way that this happens in, I think, quite a few Asian languages, especially in Chinese and Japanese. Like that, I cannot imitate the sound just because it's not in the English lexicon. But just the way, it's just a satisfying sound. I don't know how to explain it better than that. But there's just a specific sound that they have in their lexicon that just, yeah.
等我们砸烂了门，冲进了后院，好家伙，他们的粮还够吃10年，
That
那
sound.
凭什么一点都不给啊？
She. That sort of sound. I love that sound.
兄弟们一下都到了气头上，就把他们一家人都屠了。人一旦见了血，根本停不下来。
If you just killed them, I'd be fine with it. But raping women, slaughtering the young and the old, is that what humans do? It's downright beastly. I clenched my teeth angrily and laid into him.
他妈的，给你尊重才叫你一声爷，你咋还当真了？就这世道，我们这些一无所有的人，若是不做恶人，你而且看看你自己吧，你的脚下不也是踩着那么多的人？啊？
He jeered twice and nodded at my feet. I looked down in panic. Underneath me lay a mountain of dead bodies. It was submerged in a black lake, only a few men stuck out above the surface. I had no clue what lay beneath. As I stared into the dark depths below, the shapes became clearer. Underneath the whole lake were women, old folks, and kids' bodies. Those near the top were swollen and blackened, limbs hanging down, faces below. Further down, some were snarling, showing monstrous fangs, trying hard to climb up. Ah! Ah! I yelled, falling back and nearly slipping off the heap of bodies.
梁，梁，你没杀任何一个妇女和小娃子，但他们还是因你而死了呀。
Is this the same voice actor's tongue? It kind of sounds a little similar. The bandit leader in the distance sat on another pile of bodies. That's when I realized he seemed to have changed his voice and appearance. Oh. Oh. His voice was tongues, and so was his face.
啊，梁，你也是恶人，何必在这儿假清高呢？陪我一起死吧，一起死！
Tongue yelled at me, then started laughing like crazy. He grabbed a dagger, stabbed himself in the neck, blood gushing out. All of a sudden, his body exploded, broke apart, and merged with the blood. The blood turned into a rushing flood, with faces of the bodies appearing in it. Boom, boom, boom. A loud thundering noise erupted. A flood of blood crowded with heads rushed towards me, blocking my sight completely. The pile of bodies beneath me and the lake below started to shake. The pile swiftly sank. Men on the surface stared at me, while women and children below the lake extended their hands, trying to pull me down. No, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna be right back because I have to pee really badly. BRB. No longer muted. There we go. The dead stared with wide eyes and twisted faces, roaring to kill me. I panicked, trying hard to escape, but there was no way out, and I slowly sank into the sea of corpses.
良夜，良夜！
Suddenly, I heard a voice. It was Mansui's voice slicing through the air, breaking apart this blood-soaked world. Her voice turned into a spider-silk beam of light, piercing through the pile of bodies. Ooh, I like that description. Spider-silk beam of light. That's really good. I'm gonna use that. I reached out, grabbing the light she sent down, and was lifted in the sky by it. Ah! I woke up in panic from the nightmare. Mansui was right there beside me. Her face looked odd, a bit scared. Guess it was just a dream.
良夜，你怎么了？
Just a bad dream. And you, why do you look so scared? I asked her, puzzled.
刚才我本来在睡觉，但是突然听到一些奇怪的声音，不太对劲。
What kind of sounds?
你趴下来听听。
Mansui pointed down, saying to me. I leaned down, pressing my ear to the ground. Rumble, rumble. I heard a faint rumbling. Horses? It sounded like the flood in my dream. In my dream, I thought it was the sound of a flood. But after waking, I realized it was hoofbeats. Aha! I'm smart! Riders were nearby. Given the intensity, there might be dozens, maybe even hundreds of them. Not good. Wake everyone up. We've got to move, and fast. I scrambled up, rousing the still dozing lambs. The lambs blinked away, sleep rising to their feet.
良夜，怎么了？
Just waking, Xianghua tilted her head, questioning me. No time for questions, let's go. I hurriedly told Xianghua, tossing yesterday's unpacked parcels onto the pack horse and undoing its tether. But it was probably too late. But I heard hooves and yelling behind me. From about 30 steps away, I saw shadows moving. Though far off, those shadows were definitely horsemen. At least 30, maybe even 50 of them. Hurry! I led the pack horse and the lambs, trying to escape. But the figures in the distance were swiftly riding closer. The soldier was talking in Northern Shan accent, threatened us with arrows, and I could faintly hear the strings being drawn. What now? Grab the last chance to flee, or play it safe and hope for the best. Escape! No time to think, just run. We're in the woods, lots of trees for cover. Even if they shoot arrows, they'll miss. These people aren't friendly. If we fall into their hands, we won't be able to reason with them. We'll be killed, eaten, or tortured if they catch us. Better run now. I took a step, leaving the lambs behind, and sprinted off.
不好，他要跑！放箭，朝那个男的放！我们追得上娃娃，不要射娃娃！
They yelled as I ran away. Suddenly, arrows whizzed by. Whoosh! Whoosh, whoosh! Some hit trees, some by my feet, some just missed my ears. Nice! None of the arrows got me. Luck's on my side. Whoosh. An arrow came flying at me. I'm dead. I'm dead. Yeah. Wow, you used to be a band and you took an arrow to the knee as an achievement. Those fuckers did that. Okay. We'll stop. Can't let them shoot. Even if I were confident enough to take the risk. With these lambs, No escape. No arrows. I spun around and yelled, making us all stop in our tracks. I stood rooted to the spot, and so did the lambs. It seemed almost as though we were stuck in place by some magical spell. Seeing we weren't moving, the riders lowered their bows and advanced cautiously, their horses edging closer step by step. Before long, they emerged from the trees. Not just one, but a whole bunch of them, with still more catching up. They quickly surrounded us. Many approached us, at least 20 from what I could see. Sound of hooves, footsteps, and clashing weapons echoed around us, and there was no telling how many more people were concealed in the distance. As they drew nearer, I could finally make them out, men on horseback, dressed in rough cloth, some with red robes draped over their shoulders, others wearing red turbans. Oh, that's right. The end of the Ming Empire is the Red Turban Rebellion. Yeah. Some carried axes, others swords, their attire and weapons varied. They didn't look friendly. Their eyes were both ignorant and fierce, and as they closed in on us, they stared at us intently, like we were prey. Who were they? My mind raced trying to figure that out. For starters, they aren't official soldiers. Regular army types have a particular look, and they don't usually cut through the hills like this. If they're heading somewhere off official, they stick to the main roads. So are they bandits then? That's not right either. I've traveled this road from Shanzhou to Haijiao before. Never heard of any big camps in these hills, and even if there were, they wouldn't have this many horsemen. Bandits are usually broke and only a few get horses. They don't come from a camp with hundreds of men. And something's off. Why would these people be riding horses in the mountains? Sure, it's a bit flatter here, no steep slopes. You can just barely ride a horse. But why bother?
梁爷，他们是反军。
Just as I was puzzled, Mansui suddenly spoke up. Rebels? I paused. She brought me back to reality. Yeah, these folks sure look like rebels. In the last decade, there's been non-stop disasters all around, so things aren't as peaceful as they used to be. Many people on the brink of starving have banded together, turned to thieving to survive, and those thieving gangs joined up to form rebel armies. Rebels riding through the mountains aren't too surprising. This bunch might be a scouting party, checking things out before the main force moves in. But I've only heard of rebels up in northern Shan, so what are they doing here in Jin? The fellow from earlier had a northern Shan twang in his talk. Could they really be from up north?
哎，你们都是哪的了？
The lead rebel hopped off his horse, sizing me up. The rest of the rebels encircled us, blocking any way out. Shanzhou, I replied calmly, showing dignity.
做生的了。
Taking them to Haijiao.
啊，他们是你的娃，还是说你是人伢子了？
I stayed quiet and felt lost for words. Honestly, it's tough to explain my connection with the lambs right now. I started out as their escort, but when I couldn't bear to leave them in a bad situation, I murdered my former partner and was now trying to arrange good endings for them. In that case, I guess I still count as a human trafficker. Rebel leader saw I didn't reply. He stared at me angrily, seeming to confirm I was a human trafficker. Ugh. If only Tongue was here right now. Tongue was good at spinning lies, and with a good enough story, we might be able to talk our way out of this before the crowd closed in. But with Tongue here, we'd be working in shifts, and wouldn't even have been caught off guard by a bunch of strangers.
林爷，他不是人牙子，我们是一个戏班子，大伙唱影子戏的。
There we go. I was like, come on, are you forgetting the story we've told before?
梁爷是我们的老师，要送我们去亥州的张老爷那里唱戏。
Just when I was unsure what to say, Mansui spoke up. Seamlessly took over Tongue's role. This time she's pulling a similar trick to last time with the soldiers. Only this time, she didn't have to act like a mute. She smiled sweetly at the rebels while talking, showing them the wooden crates on the pack horse. The rebels on horseback glared at her, but she didn't back down.
不用给老子看，老子也不知道啥是影子戏了。再难的不是人伢子就好。我平生第一恨狗地主，第二恨狗贪官，
第三就是很人牙子。但凡你是这三者之一，我都要砍了你的头，剥了你的皮。
The rebel grumbled out his words. He was blunt, saying whatever's on his mind. Can we leave then? I asked calmly, preparing to take the lambs and go.
哎，不行！
He lifted his sword, blocking our way.
按照军规，我们行军要是被人看见了，都不能轻易的放走。你带着女娃先跟我们走一趟，我们让大哥来决断一下了。
The rebel gruffly told me off, his haughty demeanor rubbing me the wrong way. The other rebels around us gave us fierce looks. It seemed that if I tried to take the lambs and leave, they'd kill us on the spot. Ugh. Compared to regular soldiers, these guys might lack cunning. They're simpler and rougher. Going with them, where would that lead us? I didn't pull out my sword against the rebels. There were too many of them, and I knew I couldn't win. I wasn't about to throw my life away. So, along with the lambs, they tied us up and marched us off to their main force. I never liked the rebels much. Most of them were starving people from up north in northern Shan. Past few years, they'd been hit hard by one disaster after another. Droughts, floods, and locusts. The Emperor promised relief funds, but it all got pocketed by officials and landlords, and nothing was left for the commoners. So they turned into rebels, to avoid starving. I heard the rebels aren't any better than bandits. They go around burning and looting, and sometimes they will rape women and slaughter the elderly and young. They could be even more vicious than the official soldiers and bandits. If we were to compare using animals, I'd be a lone wolf and they'd be a pack of wild dogs. Now I'm in their hands. Seems like these rebels really dislike human traffickers. I'll have to learn from Tung and Mansui, keeping cautious. I can't afford to be too brash when talking to them. Lost in thinking about the rebels, I walked with them for about 2 hours. When I came back to my senses, we were out of the mountains, in a village. This village seemed like a small one on Jin's southern border. I'd never been here before, don't know where it is either. Where are we? I asked the rebel leading us.
李家聪，
He told me the place name. Where are we headed now?
我带你们去见我大哥。
The rebel replied to me. At the same time, he led me through Lijia village. The village didn't look rich, and there were few people about. However, it seemed the village hadn't been hit hard by disasters, and the crops weren't too bad, unlike the hellish scene in Shuigao village. I noticed the rebels talking to the villagers. Some of them were holding hoes, while others were carrying fertilizer buckets. They were moving around in the field, seemingly working. Huh, that's weird. Are these rebels even working for the villagers?
我马上要带你们见大哥，说话都跟我恭敬点，知道啊？不然小心你们就没命了。
The rebel warned us, then took us across a farm to a big house. The house was bigger than others in the village, with a well in front. It seemed like where a respected village elder would live. Guided by the rebel, we walked toward the house and first saw a red flag stuck in the ground. Then we overheard the boss speaking with the village elder.
老白，你姓李，我也姓李，你看，这是咱俩的缘分嘛。
We're also a Li. We're a Liang.
俺这些伙计都不是啥坏人，大家本都是纯良的百姓，只是叫狗官逼上绝路罢了，迫不得已才出来闯的。哦，等一会儿，我给你去牛棚下下牛。我呀，原来是在驿站当差的，最懂出生了。
行，小李啊，我看你确实不像土匪，待的人也和善。你们不伤我们性命，不拿我们钱财，那想留就留吧。啊，要粮 我们也能分些。只是我担心啊，到时候上面的人查过来要降罪我们，那该如何是好啊？
哎，好说呀！等官兵来了，你就说，我把刀架到你脖子上，逼着你收留俺们2天，对吧？你就说，俺都是哈怂，俺生了锅饿急了，要是叫俺们饿了肚子，村民就要被吃了。
Oh no, he's hot! As we turned the corner, we could see the old man sigh, while beside him a smiling younger man was chatting. The young man wore a felt hat and a blue upper garment. He seemed to be in his prime, with prominent cheekbones, deep-set eyes, a straight nose, and eyebrows like those of an eagle. Oh, Liang, you are not straight. His face wasn't handsome, but it gave off a sharp and capable vibe. Was he the boss of this band of rebels?
大哥，
咋了？
我给你报件事。早上巡山时，我们看到有一缕烟，起初以为是官兵，凑近才发觉不是。山里的人是他们，一个男的带着4个女娃，我看着像人鸭子。
嗯。
The boss scanned me and the girls with his eagle-like eyes. Finally, he locked eyes with me, and I returned his gaze. I met his stare with dignity, trying to match his aura without backing down. Dude, you are not matching aura with a man like that.
伙计，你从哪打来的？
Changju.
是山地的人不？
Nope. Born elsewhere.
你多大？
26.
那挺巧的嘛。
Oh, same.
跟我一个年龄，真是天大的缘分。
He grinned, his tense expression easing up. This rebel leader sure likes finding common ground with others. But I reckon he's just using that trick to get close. And by the looks of him, don't seem like we're the same age.
哎，伙计，你到底是不是人家子？
As I mulled over his age, he coldly repeated his question. No way. Still have to stick to the story Mansui spun earlier. We aren't human traffickers. We're a theater troupe, taking these girls to Haijiao to perform.
啥戏？
Shadow play?
影子戏，那我可喜欢了。哎，你们演的东西有吗？
Got it all. Everything is on the pack horse. The boss took a moment to think after that. He gave me a look, then checked out the lambs.
女娃们，这伙计没骗我吧？
梁爷没骗你。没骗你。
默片。
The lambs were all helping with the lie, but except for Mansui, who was quite skilled, the other 3 lambs seemed a bit awkward. It didn't feel like we could keep up the act much longer. What now?
乖了，真乖了。
The boss frowned as he glanced at the lambs.
我见的人多了，戏班子也见过，绝对不是你家这样的。伙计，你这模样，身子骨拧了，目露凶光，我一眼就看出来，你是走我似的。可为啥这些小娃个个都替你扯谎了？啊？
He furrowed his brow in confusion and asked. He has sharp
哎，
eyes.
大哥，他们的话一听就像是憋的，哪怕我脑子不聪明都信不得了。他就是人鸭子，女娃娃被他骗了。哎，我们快活挂了他！
The rebel who brought us here seemed to have also figured out that we weren't a theater troupe. He angrily drew his sword, ready to attack us.
西塞，
Boss Lee bellowed angrily, stopping his men abruptly.
我都有决断了，急从一急。伙计，实话说吧，我不在乎你是戏班子还是人伢子。
The rebel leader looked at me and spoke directly.
俺的粮有限，不能带太多人。这是军队在秘密行军，你们遇到俺们是不能轻易放你们走的，不能叫你家报官了。这样吧，简单处理，你跟俺的人比试一下，赢了我就收你在军中打仗，输了我就把你们都杀了，咋想？
The rebel leader shot me a sharp look, offering a blunt and brutal suggestion. A showdown. Was he thinking I looked handy enough to take on his men? Sounds reasonable. If I win, it shows I'm valuable to him. And he'd rather recruit me than kill me. It seems like a safe bet. But what about the lambs? Should I try negotiating with him again? Or just agree to the showdown? What do we have? We're gonna negotiate. Deciding life and death with a match, huh? I'm fine with that. But I want to talk about terms again.
Huh?
I don't want to join your army. If I win, you let us go. Not just me, all of them too. I'm willing to go with you a few more rounds. But these girls go with me.
哎呀，跟我谈条件，伙计，你胆子不小嘛？
Yep, won't fight without that condition. I stare at Boss Lee sternly.
那要是一个女娃一条命，一条命比一场，你敢比不？
Yeah. Boss Lee frowned, eyeing me coldly before nodding slowly.
那一言为定，就这办。
With a hearty laugh, he signaled to his men.
来人，先5个刀耍的好的，拉6把主刀过来。
Why bamboo swordsmen?
死！
With my proposal accepted, he motioned for his men to prepare for the challenge. After about a stick of incense time, a few rebel soldiers came one by one. They had bamboo sticks in their hands, which had been roughly cut by knives.
哎，结束了。
The rebel swordsman tossed the bamboo stick, hurling it towards me. I reached out and caught it, gripping it tight. This isn't a bamboo sword, it's just a stick. I looked at the bamboo stick in my hand, frowning.
讲究用线，俺这支军不阔，平常都是用竹棍练刀的。
Alright, who's first? I looked at the row of rebel swordsmen.
我先来。
A burly, dark-skinned man grabbed a bamboo stick and charged at me. This guy, he's a towering 9-footer with a fierce 9-footer? What? How the fuck is he that tall? Judging by his clumsy steps, it's clear he's all brawn and no brains. Easy pickings. Whoosh! He swung his stick, closing the gaps just 2 steps away from me, then charged forward, aiming a hard swing at my upper body. I took a quick step back, leaned away to avoid his first swing. At the same time, I spun my waist, lifting the stick to slash at his neck. Smack! Quick as a flash, my stick hit his neck before he could dodge. He grunted in pain at the blow. In just one round, I managed to hit this brute right in the neck. He froze in place, stunned by my blow. Initially, he seemed like he wanted to retaliate, but seeing my stick still against his neck, thought better of it. If I had used a real blade, his neck would have been halfway severed by now.
妈的，我来！
Another one, watching his buddy fell soon as the tick got ticked off. He grabbed a bamboo stick and rushed at me. Crack! Crack, crack! The new guy swung his stick at me repeatedly. I blocked, and in no time we exchanged blows 3 times. He's got some moves. A real fighter. Whew! I let out a deep breath. Eyes fixed on his moves, hunting for a gap. Found it! When he swung, he left his left side open. I sidestepped and swung my sticks at his waist. Smack! The stick sliced through the air, hitting him with a crisp sound.
反过来！
Oh, fuck. Just as I dealt with the second challenger, I heard Boss Lee call out. He grabbed a bamboo stick and came charging at me. He wanted to challenge me too. He didn't waste a second. He came charging at me, swinging his bamboo stick with a fierce determination. Whoosh, whoosh. His strikes came fast and strong, like a stampede I couldn't escape. I dodged to the side just in time to avoid both attacks. Then, as I went to counter with a swing of my own, he struck again. It had remarkable speed and invincible force, making it impossible to dodge. Bring it on! I braced myself and swung back with all I had. Crack!
再来！
He swung his bamboo stick and I swung mine, the two rattling against each other in rapid succession. We clashed for several more rounds.
好身手！
He praised, then swiftly twisted his body, spinning his bamboo stick towards me. Sharp, fast, precise, and skillful. In his hand, the bamboo stick seemed to take on the essence of a blade. What skill? He wasn't just a figurehead. He knew how to wield a blade. Not daring to slow down, I surged forward, meeting his blade head-on. Blade flashes clashed and intertwined, enthralling the air in a dance of gales. Phew! I backed off, taking a breath. We've been going at it for 30 rounds, and it's still neck and neck. His strikes keep coming hard and fast. Yeah, they do. I'm holding on, giving it everything I got, but just barely keeping up. But I know I got what it takes to come out on top. As the fight went on, the fang of his blows began to dull, while the clanging of the sword has slowly attuned into a rhythm in my head. Won't be long before I can take him down. But I've got to hold on tight. Energy's draining, heart's crashing, blood in my mouth, vision getting fuzzy. Gotta hang in there if I want to win.
对了，不必了。
对。
雷这发西线不必了。哎呀，第一回能遇着手足俺们多道的人，那算赢了。
Bosley panted hard, looking at me tiredly. We didn't finish 5 rounds, did we?
我一个人算3局，
Yeah,
你赢5局了。
he's changing the rules as we go along. I count as 3. Is this all right? And you'll let us all go?
啊，我留着小女娃有啥用？带走，你把人家都带走。
Bosley tossed the bamboo stick to his men and gestured toward me. Aren't you afraid I'll snitch to the official soldiers if I run into them?
不操心啊，教授就知道了。你不是会报官的那种人。
He's right. I don't snitch for shit. Bosley glanced at me, grinned, and chuckled. This guy's serious. Is he really letting us walk away like this? I shot him a skeptical look, but I didn't want to stick around for any longer. I went over to the lambs and was about to lead them away. We're leaving, I said slowly to the lambs, then casually took Pierre's hand.
等一下，
Bosley suddenly yelled out. I stopped. The lambs stopped too. They were a bit scared, and I was a bit worried. What now? Is he changing his mind? We were supposed to go free if we won the match. In the end, is he afraid we'll report their route to the officials and won't let us go?
现在有些晚了，你这走夜路也不方便，干脆在俺们这儿住一晚上啊。哦，还有个事情，你这不是会影子戏吗？真的吗？假的？俺这兄弟很多都是穷乡僻壤出来的，从来都没看过影子戏。俺这些人呀，也不知道啥时候就把命丢了，几百个人跟官兵拼杀一番，爬出来的也就10几个。看一回戏对很多人来说是头一回，也大概只有一回了。难得呀！
哎，大哥，你咋又说这来不吉利的话了？你上次不是说了吗？不能说这种话扰乱军心。
哎，你皮下去！我这不算扰乱军心，哪怕几百个人杀出一个，只要把官兵杀完了，也是俺们赢。怕死就不来闯，想闯就别怕死。我开始不就说了，这是扰乱军心。嗯，
是，大哥说的对，我们都不怕死，我们都能闯。
不好意思，伙计，让你见笑了。俺们这些兄弟经常这样吵。哎，总之，你这能不能给俺们演一出呀？啊，演咋像都行，不会让人家白演。我会用好酒好菜招待你家的。
Bosley eyed me and the lambs, his face lighting up with a sly grin as he rambled on. He was so eager and sincere that it was tough to turn him down. Plus, the night was unforgiving on these mountain trails, and a break in a friendly village sounded tempting. And, well, the promise of a hearty meal and some drinks was hard to resist. I glanced at the lambs. They seemed to be on board too. Alright, we'll do it your way, but we're not good at acting, so don't expect much. And if the official soldiers come tomorrow, we'll say you made us stay.
对，那就这样办。蓉蓉，去给俺安排住处。
是。
Boss Lee and his soldiers split. The lambs finally relaxed a bit. Oh, my voice, dude. He started chatting with me in low
梁
voices.
爷，刚才你打的真好。梁爷像死昨天的红袍子一样。
Red robe? Like Lu Bu in the shadow play? These lambs sure knew how to flatter. I told them we'd put on a shadow play later. We'll do it like last night. Lass and I will do the shadows, you girls bang the drums. I looked at Mansui, then addressed the other lambs.
好。哎，腌好了有肉吃吗？
Yeah, I'll ask them for some meat later.
太好了。梁爷，我们倒真像是戏班子了。
The rascals were all talking over each other. There's no way we abandon these kids now. Yeah, I guess I'm really getting into this role. I had forgotten my identity as a human trafficker and now was feeling more like the leader of a theater troupe. Maybe subconsciously it might not have been just the promise of food and shelter that made me agree to stay. I really did want to put up. Ow. Oh, my voice. Ow. Oh. Hold on. Oh. I'm gonna lose my voice because of this game. So much reading. Oh, there's like a scratchiness to my. Oh. I really did want to put on a shadow play with the lambs. After all, like Boss Lee said, first chance in a lifetime may easily also be the last. This would be the first time I'd act with the lambs in front of others. And probably also the last. As night fell, the silver moon peeked through the clouds. Boss Lee gathered a bunch of rebels and we lit a big fire in the village center. We set up a white screen in front of the campfire and the lambs tied the shadow puppets to the bamboo sticks. There were lots of spectators tonight. The rebels formed circles around us, crowding in close. Their eyes were wide with curiosity, not wanting to miss a thing. Just like Boss Lee said, they probably hadn't seen a shadow play before, so they were eager to see what we had in store. Phew. I let out a big breath and settled behind the white screen. Beside me, Mansui plopped down. She passed me Lu Bu and took Zhang Fei. It was the same one we did last night. The three heroes battle Lu Bu.
梁爷，开始吧。
Okay. She gave me a small smile and I nodded to the other lambs. The drums began, she took a deep breath and started singing again. A little better, she's getting a little better. She's getting actually better. Mansui sang softly, her voice blending with the crackling of the campfire, touching the hearts of the rebel soldiers gathered around. They're quite a lively bunch, I gotta say. After catching our shadow play, they've been cheering non-stop, craving for more. Under Boss Lee's orders, they rearranged themselves, soldiers from the front swapping with those at the back, and so we ended up doing a few more runs. After that, Boss Lee kept his word and treated us to a feast with good grub and drinks. It was our first proper meal since Shanju. With my mind clear, I chowed down heartily, filling up on meat and knocking back plenty of booze. While we drank and ate meat, the rebels chatted around me. One of them shared a story about a few years back. He was gathering herbs in the mountain ravine and came face to face with a tiger. It snarled at him from about a dozen steps away, and he was so scared he fell to his knees, kowtowing and begging for mercy. But the tiger didn't get human talk. Instead of forgiving him, it wanted to bite him. Feeling scared, he thought whether he knelt and got bit or fought back, he'd die anyway. So he stood up and fought. He grabbed a stick nearby and swung at the tiger. Hitting its head hard, it howled, wanting to return the favor, but got hit again in the belly, hurting its insides. It ran off quickly. The crowd didn't believe the soldier's story and started mocking him. He got mad and insisted he wasn't lying, standing up to argue with the others. That's when Boss Lee spoke up. He gulped down a jug of wine, motioned for his crew to cease their bickering, and then got to telling his own story. He said he used to be a messenger, drawing a salary from the emperor, but the government shuttered the messenger posts after just a few years, leaving him without a job. After that, he went back home to farm and became the village chief, but all he got was droughts and locusts, leaving the land barren. The taxes kept coming, so he borrowed from a lord named Ai to save himself and his neighbors. But when it was payback time, grain prices shot up, and he couldn't repay. Mr. Ai dragged him to court, beat him up, but spared him prison due to the villagers' pleas. Then, more trouble. Mr. Ai and the officials conspired against him, planning to punish him further, even to the point of death. Sentenced to die, he escaped with help from the villagers. Soldiers chased them into the woods, intending to starve them to death. He was pushed to the brink several times. He never thought of rebellion before, but faced with starvation, had no other choice. After rebelling, there was no turning back for him. All that was left was to push forward. His words stirred up passion. Tears welled up in the eyes of the rebels beside him. Listening to all this, I didn't feel much. Though I despised the soldiers and the landlords, I hadn't experienced the oppression they had. After hearing so much, I just felt sleepy. After that, I dozed off, woke up to the birds chirping and the rebels packing up. Before we knew it, it was morning. Time to go. Woke up the lambs, packed up, and said goodbye to the rebels. Boss Lee and his followers saw us off at the village entrance.
哎，伙计，真不跟俺们一打打仗？
He stood by the village entrance, giving my shoulder a pat and asking with a grin. Gotta wrap up some business with the little ones.
那他们死办完以后，你能来不？
Probably not. I told him straight. After all, even being a bandit is safer than fighting as a rebel.
哎，你这身手，不跟我一起去死，真是可惜了。要是到时候想来，俺们也没叫官兵全灭的话，尽管来投我。
He looked a bit sad, letting out a long sigh and shaking his head. Easy for you to say. Well, how will I find you when the time comes? I asked casually.
那好办，到时候你一路去先造反军队，见一个就报一个我的名号，一路打听，肯定能先传我。
What's your full name, anyway? I asked as it dawns on me. How I didn't even know his full name after all this time.
李创江，
Dashing General Lee. Dashing General Lee. I repeated the name silently. It's new to me, but honestly, I didn't pay much attention to the names of the rebels.
我在高创王手底下起事，你要是创王，
Wait.
我是创江。
Wait, is this who I think it is? Hold on. Hold on. Dashing General Lee. Li Zicheng, yes! Oh my god. I knew I knew he had to be someone.
你要是碰说义军，就报创江的名号来先我。闯，来跟俺们闯出一片天，杀的那些官兵丢盔弃甲，杀的那些狗官跪地求饶。哈哈哈哈！
He chuckled confidently, striking a heroic stance. Got it. I nodded and led the pack horse, heading towards Haijiao with the lambs. After a while, I glanced at the rebel soldiers line up in the distance. A flag fluttered in the wind, pole shining silver and crimson flag looking like it was soaked in blood. I seemed to have seen it yesterday. There wasn't much wind yesterday, so I didn't see what the pattern was on the flag. At first, I thought it would have been the Li character because most generals would put their last name on the flag. But today, I realized it wasn't Li. It was a big Tron character. I don't know what that character is. Tron, dash. Dashing general. A rebel general looking to dash forward and break through the world. Suits him well. By the end, still didn't know why he, with his northern Shan accent, led his crew through Jin, heading north. And he didn't know if I was really a human trafficker or where these lambs were going. Okay, I think we're definitely finishing tonight, right? Let's look at the flowchart. Yeah, we have to be finishing tonight. Wait a minute. Did I not finish chapter 12 with high affinity? Or medium? What the frick? Oh, I'm gonna go fill up my water bottle because I need more frickin' water. I'm thirsty. All right. Home stretch. Right. Right. Couple more. So many more chapters. We followed it for 6 hours until we reached the main road near Haijiao. After a quick rest and some rations by the roadside, we resumed our journey in the afternoon. Another hour later, we finally arrived at Haijiao, but this time, something was off. The city gate was shut tight. The tall walls and shut gates sealed off Haijiao, keeping everyone out. Below the wall sat a beggar in tattered clothes, while guards watched from above, their faces hidden. When we spotted them, they spotted us too.
今日城门不开，你们且回吧。
The guard shouted down from the city gate. "Why's that?" I yelled, asking the guard up on the gate tower.
都是上头的命令，我也不知道。
"When's the gate opening?"
不知道。
Guard yelled impatiently. I glanced at the beggar below, who was chuckling at us, likely seen this before many
梁
times.
爷要找的人在亥州城。
Yeah, saw her once about 2 years back in Huajiao. Said she was heading to Haijiao.
那现在要怎么办？
So what's the plan now? No idea. I stared at the shut city gate, unsure of what to do next. Should we turn back to Shanzhou and figure things out from there? Or should we take the longer route to Yangcheng along the main road? Neither option feels right. Apart from my friend in Haijiao, I couldn't think of anyone else who might buy the lambs for me right now. Besides, going back to Shanzhou would be a hassle, and I don't know the way to Yancheng very well. And this isn't good.
大爷，别等了，城门关2天了，没有人能进去。给点吃的吧，我给你讲讲这门为啥关了，再给大爷指条明路。
The beggar by the gate suddenly spoke up. I glanced his way. Guess there aren't many options right now. He's been sitting there a while, seen plenty come and go, might have some answers. I walked up to the pack horse and grabbed a piece of ration. Let's hear it. I handed the ration to the beggar. He eyed me suspiciously at first, then grinned and took the offering.
谢谢大爷，我这就讲啊。不知道大爷，你知道晋地北边有反贼不？
Yeah?
北边呀有反贼，朝廷派了很多兵去剿，可就是剿不完。听说他们快从北边打过来了，附近几个镇子最近都不安宁，上头怕了。这几天被人汉州关了城门。
I pondered the beggar's words quietly. What he said probably holds true. Gates aren't usually shut during the day unless there's enemy forces. This is the southern border of Jin. Those barbarians from the border aren't likely to barge in. That means it's likely the rebels already made their way into Jin, and that's why they closed the gate. But he probably doesn't know everything. General Lee's gang, they're from the Shan region originally, headed north. So ain't rebels from up north heading south? Rebels from Shan sneaking into Jin, going north. Why were they going north, though? Maybe to join forces against the government army? That's a mighty bold move, risking it all like that. Nothing you're saying is surprising. I not only know, but probably know more than you. Is there anything fresher? I asked the beggar coldly.
大爷，你本来就知道吧？那刚才为什么要问守卫啊？
Just wanted to double check. Never mind. Let's cut to the chase. What's the solution you're talking about?
好嘞，明路啊，你们可以一直往东南方走，2000步后会看到一座靠河的小山，绕着山转一圈，山脚下有个客栈，大爷可以带小花去那个客栈。据说那客栈老板神通广大，知道怎么进汉州城。
All right, let's go check it out. I got the info from the beggar, then got the pack horse ready and moved on with the lambs. An inn at the foot of the hill with a canny owner? Well, that sounds pretty intriguing. After about half an hour, we got to the inn. Just like the beggar said, it's at the foot of the hill. Before we came, I thought it would be crowded with people who couldn't get into Haijiao. But it's way quieter than I thought. With a cloudy day, the dark clouds over the top of the inn gave it an eerie feeling, not helped by the inn's doors and windows being closed. I took the lambs into the inn. They stayed close together, walking carefully.
梁爷，这客栈里好暗。
是啊，梁爷，这里看着好像不太对，好像住着鬼， 我们不要往下走了吧？
姐姐，贵是啥？
贵不能说，说了不吉利。总之就不能说，不能见啊。
水姐姐，贵是啥？贵就是能走的死人，看得见却摸不着，能杀人夺命。
穗儿姐，你咋说了？这不能说的。
The lab started chattering, getting all riled up. Quiet! I sternly hushed their talk. Don't scare yourselves silly. It's daytime. Where's a ghost gonna come from? I'm here, my blade's here. What's to fear? I calmed the lambs and moved forward, blade in hand. I've killed many people, seen my share of bodies, but never seen a ghost. No need to worry. Hey, anybody in here? I shouted as I entered the inn. Anybody in here? I raised my voice and shouted again.
来喽！
Finally, after my second shout, I heard a response. A waiter came down from upstairs.
哎呦，稀客稀客！哟，客官还带着几个娃子呀，请坐，请坐。
When the waiter saw us, he warmly welcomed us. He gestured for us to take a seat. See, no ghosts around here.
客官要什么茶？龙井、虎丘，还有松萝。
Just water, please.
哎呀，没事儿，我给客官倒一些吧。住店的客人都不收茶水钱的。
All right, pour some then. By the way, why is it so empty here?
最近是淡季，客人本来就少。
Uh-huh. You haven't heard? Haijiao's locked down.
知道啊，当然知道。我们这里呀，就有进不去海州城的客，在楼上住着呢。
Really? I glanced upstairs skeptically. Actually, I didn't seem to hear any guests. What food does the inn have for dinner?
哎呀，客栈没什么余粮，可能要寒碜一点。但是啊，只要大爷有钱，还是能买一些酒肉的。
I don't trust this guy. What meat? How much?
猪肉3块，5000百叶。
Half a tail. Why is it so much? How much for one night?
1两百叶。哦，大爷带了那么多娃子，要加点钱，换大间要1两5000。
1.5 tails for a night. You're ripping us off like this.
哎呦呦呦呦呦！
Woo!
这么说
Yeah, the way he said that, I
现在
love
光
it.
景不好，价格自然高些。
That's too steep for me. We won't stay here.
客官，再考虑下呗。现在天色渐晚，方圆50里都没有地方可以找。而且，若您真的想走，不住店的客人，得把这壶龙井的1两钱给结喽。
Huh. Starting to feel like a real scam. And didn't you say it was on the house? I sneered and got up, planning to take the lambs and leave. Seemed like that beggar's directions weren't any good. He was just trying to trick us into this shady place. This place is probably a rip-off joint, taking advantage of the lockdown in Haijiao to make a killing. So, there probably aren't any guests upstairs, and even if there are, they're likely keeping quiet, just taking the hit. Yep, ghosts are rare, but people's hearts? Now that's a different story. They're the real spooky ones. Same in peacetime, worse in chaos.
别想走，要么交钱，要么挨打。
Just as I was about to lead the lambs out the door, a fierce-looking and burly man burst out from the kitchen. I paid him no mind, motioned to the lambs, and turned to leading the way towards the inn's entrance.
你走了吗？
He came charging at me with his rolling pin. What a joke. Just yesterday, I sparred with a dashing general. Plus, I had my blade at hand. This guy didn't worry me. No need to look back, I could hear his steps on the creaky floorboards. Heavy thuds followed his strides. 3 steps, 2 steps, 1 step. Here he comes. As the burly man closed in behind me, I spun around fast. With a quick spin and a swift move, I smoothly sidestepped him. He was about to charge at me, but his balance wasn't steady, leaning too far forward. Seizing his arm, I took advantage of his momentum, slamming him into the nearby wooden table. Crack! His head and torso thudded onto the table, nearly breaking it. I gripped his arm tightly and swiftly forced him backward, onto the table with a sudden push. At the same time, I whipped out the knife with my left hand, yanked it 3 inches from its sheath, and pressed the blade against the back of his neck. Try anything? You're done. I stared down at the strong-armed thug and said coldly, I'm fine with this inn getting bloody. After all, I'd seen a blood-covered inn just a few days before.
大爷饶命，饶命啊！
The burly man pinned down by me with a blade at his neck instantly backed down, quietly pleading for mercy.
大爷，别杀他，有话好好说。
Waiter, scared stiff, didn't dare get in close. He'd completely lost his earlier tough act.
住手！
Just as I was pondering what to do with them, a clear female voice rang in my ears. Hey, girlie. A lady slowly descended the inn stairs. As she walked, her fingers trailed along the railing. She appeared to be in her 20s, her updo indicating she was married. She wore a light purple gown with a pale blue sash around her waist, giving an elegant and subdued impression. Familiar. With a glance, I immediately recognized her. She was.
凉。
Before I could say her name, she beat me to it, calling out mine. She looked at me in surprise, standing there stunned, all her usual calm gone. Her name was Ya, meaning kite. Perhaps her parents meant for her to fly high and have a fortuitous life, but she resembled her namesake more in having the perceptiveness of a bird of prey. She was the one I was searching for. Funny how things turned out. I didn't make it to Haijiao, but here she is in this rip-off joint. I looked at Kite, recalling what I knew about her. Kite. I met her 5 years back. After the Tianqi explosion, lots of homeless people returned to their hometowns. I planned to head southeast, but got mixed up and ended up following a group heading southwest. I traveled with them for a while, passing through a county near Anyang, where there was trouble brewing. 2 brothers there said the magistrate had messed up a case, covering for a local landlord. The landlord took over their land, but because he was tight with the magistrate awarded the land to him. The 2 brothers got mad, got drunk, and decided to play bandit, aiming to raid the landlord's grain one night. Some refugees heard about it and agreed to join them in the robbery. They talked about justice, but really they were just after their own gain. They'd been starving for days, didn't care anything about upholding justice or assisting the poor. They just wanted to snatch some grain, and the brothers stepped up, giving them an excuse. How do I know? Because I was one of them. Had been hungry too long, just wanted a decent and fulfilling meal. So I tagged along to grab some food too. One night, we followed the brothers. We waited at the landlord's place, climbed his wall with a wooden ladder, and snuck inside. Found the grain stash fast, knocked out the servants guarding it, and grabbed a sack each before making a run for it. Could have ended there. Turned out, things didn't go as planned. Those brothers, they nabbed the grain but couldn't resist heading to the landlord's room to rough him up. And among our group, some had their eyes on the landlord's women, thinking they could take advantage of them. As I tried to split with the grain, I saw they'd offed the landlord and his wife. They were busy abusing the landlord's concubine and messing up his servants. I tried to talk sense, but nobody listened. I didn't want to get involved because I was worried that the official soldiers would come looking. I wanted to just split with the grain. Then I heard someone shout from far off, saying they found the landlord's daughter hiding in a room. For some reason, maybe curiosity, maybe something else, I hesitated for a sec before leaving. I ran with 2 others toward the voice, planning to take a look. We stormed into the room and caught a guy trying to force himself on a woman, tearing at her clothes. I hadn't planned on stepping in, but her screams and his disgusting laughter made me sick. I couldn't take it anymore. Instead of just talking, I dropped the grain, grabbed my blade, and charged at the guy, cutting him down with one swift stroke. The people who came with me got scared off by my sudden move and bolted out the door, probably to tell the others about my betrayal. Me, to dodge any retaliation from my erstwhile accomplices, I grabbed the woman and made a run for it. Soon enough, the constable showed up and found us. Thinking I was just a servant, they let me off the hook. At our direction, they stormed the landlord's place. Most of the crooks couldn't escape and got caught on the spot. Meanwhile, with the woman's help, I slipped out of town and kept heading west. Kite was the woman, the landlord's daughter. After that, I thought I'd never see her again. She just thanked me for saving her, didn't ask why I was with those crooks raiding her house, and she never brought it up later. Two years back, I bumped into her again in Shanzhou. I was looking to sell some stuff at a dodgy pawn shop, and it turned out she was the boss there. Took her a second to recognize me, then she invited me to the back for tea. She told me that after the mess 3 years ago, her family was left with just a few servants and their business tanked. The marriage they had lined up fell apart because of it. So she got her kin to set up a new marriage, ended up marrying into a wealthy family in Shanzhou, only to find out the guy ran a dodgy pawn shop. Her husband kicked the bucket soon after they tied the knot, leaving her running the pawn shop solo. By chance, we met again and finally learned each other's names. I stayed in Shanzhou for a few months and often dropped by to see her. But our connection didn't stop there. I even came looking for her to help with these lambs. And now, here we are, bumping into each other once more at the inn near Haijiao.
梁，上次见面还是2年前吧？2年前我在陕州的时候，你正好来我那儿销赃。
Kite came down the inn stairs, smiling at me.
我当年就提了一嘴，觉得陕地不安全，想去禁地避灾。你是怎么找到这里来的？
Maybe you forgot. Back then, you clearly said you wanted to go to Haijiao, so I came here to find you. Didn't expect that I'd bump into you at a dodgy pawn shop last time, and at a dodgy inn this time. How come the places you run are always so dodgy?
当今世道，也没什么正经生意好做吧？
She giggled, briefly covering her face, but soon her expression turned serious.
梁，我知道的，你这人无利不起早，有事不求人。就直说吧，这次找我所谓何事？怎么就寻到亥州城来了？
For them, I told her, glancing at the girls nearby.
好几个女娃子。你说我一直没做正经生意，你不是也做起人牙子的活了？
Kinda. Well, not exactly. For a moment, I didn't know how to tell Kite about all that had happened. Wasn't right with these lambs listening. It didn't feel right with everyone else in the inn hearing. Kite caught onto what I was getting at.
小张，老牛，你俩带女娃们去后厨弄点吃的，我和梁爷要单独聊一会儿。
哎，好嘞，老板。
好。
After Kite spoke, the waiter and the burly man led the girls to the kitchen. Mansui eyed Kite warily. Xianghua and the other lambs looked uneasy too. I mean, not long ago I almost got into it with that tough guy called Iron Bull, and now I'm chatting it up with his boss. It's definitely a bit strange. Don't worry, it was all a mix-up. She's the one I was planning to bring you all to meet in the city. Someone trustworthy. I introduced Kite to the lambs.
原来这里老伴就是梁爷要找的人。
梁爷要找的人原来是女人呀！是女人呀！
The lambs chimed in with their own reactions. But what caught me off guard was how they seemed more shocked that the person I was seeking was a woman than the fact that I was looking for the owner of a shady inn. All right, you girls head to the kitchen now. I'll be there soon. I waved them off, urging the lambs to hurry.
好，我们走吧，不打扰梁爷和相好叙旧。
God damn it, Mansui. Mansui directed the other lambs towards the kitchen and muttered something under her breath, sounding a bit strange. What's with the mysterious lass?
我看这些女娃和你处得挺好的，你这确实不像是人牙子呀。
Kite glanced at the reactions of the lambs and teased me. It's a long story. I sighed, planning to start from scratch and explain everything. I told Kite about what went down in the last 20 days. About 20 days back, Tung and I got roped in an escort job at Yinsan. Yinsan pulled a fast one on us, making us think we were just delivering a few lambs to a rich family. I'm not gonna read the stuff we already know that's happened. Dang.
你还真把你那同伙杀了。
That's her line. Yep, had to. No way we'd both make it here. We were at a stalemate. Had to be done.
洛阳的那个买家是谁？
Can't say. Won't help you any.
行，那我就不知道吧。所以，你现在是想让我帮你做完人牙子的活儿，把女娃都卖出去？
Yeah, trying to find a way to sell them off. Going rate from a few years back. 100 taels of silver each. She looked a bit conflicted. What's up? Can't find a way? I
不
frowned,
是找
asking.
不到路子，只是现在不可能卖到100两。连年大灾，西北的粮价翻了2、3倍，人牙子的活儿却没以前赚钱了。现在 卖50两都难。
Impossible. Tung said the buyer in Liao Yang was willing to pay 2,000 taels for just 4 of the lambs.
那你怎么不谈那买家会如何对小娃？能卖多少钱，取决于你想把小娃送到哪儿。若是把他们卖到黑沟栏，也能1人100两。但是他们估计活不了多久，哪怕活着，也是生不如死。若是把他们卖去当童养媳，1人可以卖50两。当童养媳要看命，遇见好的人，那是他们的福分；遇见不好的人，那便只能听天由命了。
You only have these 2 options? Brothel and child brides?
是啊，这年头想卖个价钱，只能找到这2种路子。
I looked down. Selling them to the brothel is out of the question. Selling them off as child brides could work. But is that really the right thing to do?
梁，你要是不愿意将他们这么卖了，我倒还有一个办法。
What's that? Kite suddenly suggested, grabbing my
我这里
attention.
稍微缺些人手，你可以把那2姐妹以1人5两的价格卖给我。至于其他2个小娃，你自己再给他们想想办法。若是需要介绍什么人，我可以帮你。
Only 5 taels? I looked at Kite, finding the price too low.
因为给他们管吃管住，他们还做不了多少活儿。即使我是倒贴钱，有5两不错了。
Kite explained slowly. I lowered my head in silence, biting my lower lip and thought, I trust Kite. She'd take good care of Hung Air and Quier. Maybe I could figure out something for Chianghua and Mansui later. But just 10 taels for all of this, and who knows if I'll even have any left after sorting everything out. I've been looking after them for so long, risking everything, getting rid of Tong, ditching Yin-san's job, getting into all sorts of trouble along the way. I was planning to grab more money, head south, and carve out a peaceful life from this chaotic world. And now I'm supposed to give up all my earnings or even lose money just so they can have a better life? What kind of deal is that? So fucked up. Am I really gonna give up my own peace to ensure they're okay? Yeah. Being this good isn't my usual style. I'm a wolf, ready to do anything to survive. Just keeping them alive is enough. Is it really worth being a total do-gooder?
梁，在这乱世之中，善良是有代价的。卖个好价钱，还是好人做到底？你要选哪个？
Kite's words hung in the air. After some inner struggle, I finally had my answer. Wait, what does this mean, sell for a good price? Let me think it over some more. When faced with Kite's question, I didn't give her an immediate answer. There's been this voice inside me all along saying get a good price for them. It said some other things too. I've done enough. I killed Tung to save these lambs. How can I care about them when I'm struggling to protect myself? But even though these thoughts kept ringing in my head, I hesitated. I'll think it over.
好啊，你尽管考虑，我不急的。天色不早，弄点东西吃呗。有事儿可以明天再说。
With a slight smile, Kite stepped away for the moment. I ignored Kite's advice and didn't go straight to the kitchen for food. Instead, I wandered outside the inn feeling restless. Like a confused wolf, I paced back and forth, hungry but unsure due to my inner struggle. Reflecting on the past 20 days only heightened my agitation. I'd be uncomfortable setting off these lambs as child brides. Too many bad people out there. What if they run into someone who beats or curses them? What if they're forced to have babies and die in childbirth? Or worse, what if they end up sold to the swine demon by whoever bought them? How would I have saved them at all then? Not good. Can't risk their future like that. Gurgle. The sky darkened and my stomach growled with hunger. It's time to eat something. I walked into the inn with the sun behind me, heading towards the lobby. Inside, the innkeeper was tidying up tables while the burly man I'd taught a lesson to earlier was settling the inn's account books. I hadn't expected him to also handle account books. After asking about the kitchen, I was pointed in the right direction. A few steps later, I found myself in the kitchen. Surprisingly, all the lambs were there.
崔儿，放下那把刀！不，我就想用马。哎呀，你还小，不能用刀，用刀会切伤手的。
姐姐小气。
哎呀，你这个碎娃，不是我小气，你划伤的手都没有药医。
哎，好了好了，俩姐妹别为这事起了争执。红儿，让她学学呗，我教她用刀吧，也会看着她的。
哎，既然穗儿姐都这么说了，那行吧。
穗姐姐真好，咱先用刀切啥？大蒜还是白菜？白菜吧，大蒜还没剥，不能切。
They all huddled by the stove in the back kitchen. Mansui stood in the center, with Hong-er and Kui-er on one side, and Xianghua on the other. From afar, it seemed like the lass was showing Kui-er how to handle a knife. What are you all doing? I walked up, curious about their activities. Could we just stay here? Like...
良夜，哦，良夜！
Xianghua and Kui-er spotted me first and gasped. Then Mansui and Hong-er turned around to see me too. When they noticed me, they got all tense and swiftly hid their hands behind their backs. I saw on the cutting board there were pork, garlic, and some chopped cabbage. This... are they cooking?
良夜，你来啦！
Mansui greeted me with a beaming smile. I glanced at her grin, then eyed the other lambs, puzzled. Why are you all acting sneaky? You sneaking snacks or something? I asked the lambs in a low voice.
不是在偷吃东西。
Then what are you doing?
良夜，是穗儿姐在教我们做饭。
Why all the sneakiness for cooking? I prodded further, wanting to know more from Xianghua.
穗儿姐说，我们要偷偷做饭，等做好了后再端给你吃。
Xianghua, you folded so fast, girl.
若是良夜早就知道了，或许就不会吓到了。
Xianghua lowered her head, her face slightly red, and nervously clutched her clothes, revealing the truth. The other lambs nodded along. Didn't look like a lie. Seems like it's my fault. I barged into their kitchen and disrupted the surprise they had prepared.
良夜，你看，我会切菜。
Kui-er called out to me. I leaned over to see her chopping. She gripped the knife in one hand and pressed down with the other, putting all her weight into it to slice the cabbage. With some effort, she managed to cut off a piece of cabbage and looked at me with pride, as if waiting for praise. Her chopping technique might be a bit awkward, but at least she got the job done. Not bad, but when you're stronger and your aim is steadier, you can try using a straight chop. I calmly told her as I took the knife from her hand. I held the cabbage in one hand while gripping the knife handle in the other. Then I swiftly made 3 cuts, slicing the cabbage evenly.
哇，良夜这样切确实更快一些，我也要试试。
崔，你还不能死！良夜都说了，你力气大了再死，不然……
姐姐真讨厌，又不让我试。
Hold on, are we going into... We're on chapter 13. Yes. No, there's gotta be way more than 15 chapters. Xianghua praised my knife skills while the 2 sisters argued again about cutting vegetables. What are you cooking up there? I asked the lambs curiously while eyeing the vegetables on the cutting board. There was a big cabbage, some wild greens, a bulb of garlic, and what looked like not enough 2 eggs, and a small piece of pork. What's the plan for this
我们
dish?
简单做3个菜：野菜蛋花汤、蒜炒肉丝，再随便烧个白菜。
You're the one teaching
对
them?
啊，以前跟娘学过。
Mansui proudly smiled at me with a hint of smugness in her eyes. This lass knows quite a lot of things. Alright, you girls go ahead and cook. I won't be in the way here. I'll come back to taste it when you're done.
那是自然，本来就是想做给良夜吃的。哼，良夜一定要多吃点。
Mansui nodded and Kui-er seemed excited too. They're pretty fired up. I wonder how it'll turn out. Watching them afar, my gaze soft and a slight smile playing at the corners of my lips. If, at this moment, I had a bronze mirror in front of me, I probably wouldn't recognize myself, would I? The sun went down. I sat at the wooden table in the lobby of the inn. The lambs brought out the cooked food. Steam rose from the dishes, filling the inn with a delicious smell. I was pretty hungry, but I didn't rush to eat to keep up a growing-up image.
来，梁爷，赶紧尝一下。
After all the dishes were served, Hong Er urged me on. She seemed quite eager. Got it. When people finish cooking, they're always the most eager for others to eat. I remember when I was a kid, my dad, while still around, used to be the first to tell me to eat once he cooked, threatening to spank me if I didn't eat while it was still hot.
来，梁爷吃。
Pierre handed me a pair of chopsticks, eager for me to taste her cooking. All right. I nodded and used the chopsticks to pick up a piece of the garlic stir-fried pork. I took a bite and chewed slowly. I savored the flavor of the meat. It was cooked just right. Tender and juicy, although a bit lacking in seasoning. But I couldn't blame them. The kitchen probably didn't have many spices on
梁
hand.
爷，咋样？
Hong Er eagerly asked. It's good. Pretty tasty, I said simply. Hong Er and Cuillere looked happy, hearing that.
梁爷，再尝尝野菜汤。
Changhua offered as I finished the meat. She handed me a wooden spoon. Seems like she had a big part in this dish. I remember seeing her washing the wild veggies earlier. I took a spoonful of soup and tasted it. Strong veggie taste.
不好喝吗？
Changhua seemed disappointed. It's actually pretty good. I didn't want Changhua to feel too bad, so I said the soup was okay even though I didn't really like it. It's not her fault though. Wild greens just aren't my thing. Maybe they needed something else to balance it out, like a bit of cooking wine. Anyway, after the soup, I checked out the third dish.
梁爷，尝尝看。
Mansui smiled at me expectantly. Looks like she made this dish. I picked up the chopsticks and grabbed a piece of stir-fried cabbage. Mansui smiled as she watched me eat. This last, she isn't spiking my food, right? Seeing her snarky grin, I got this weird idea. She wouldn't. Sure, I scolded her and spanked her, but poison? Doubt it. Plus, the other lambs will eat this later. Even if she wanted to poison me, she wouldn't harm those lambs who call her Sis Sui, would she? Thinking that, I felt a bit better. I grabbed my chopsticks and dug into the cabbage. Oh, it's cooked real nice. Cabbage feels just right, not too crunchy, not too soft. And she poured some pork broth on top and sprinkled chopped garlic, giving it some extra flavor. How the fuck does this girl who starved know how to cook good? Gotta say, this lass knows how to cook.
梁爷，好吃吧？
Mansui leaned on the table and looked at me. Okay, about as good as the other two dishes, maybe a little tastier. I spoke carefully, not wanting to make the little brat too proud.
水姐姐做的白菜是我切的。
Cuillere raised her hand. Yeah, I saw you chopping it earlier. I smiled at Cuillere and she grinned back, showing her teeth. Join in. Don't just watch me eat. I prompted the lambs to join in. After I said that, they obediently picked up their chopsticks and started eating.
梁爷，我给你打饭吧。
No need. I got it.
好。翠儿，你吃这个，多吃。
姐姐不用给我夹，我会自己夹。
你还在生我不让你切菜的气啊？
没生气。穗儿姐做菜真好呀，我也想做得更好些。可以慢慢学的，什么事都不是一朝一夕就能做好的。梁爷再尝尝吧，汤里面的蛋花也很好吃的。
All right, I'll give it another try. I took another spoonful of the vegetable soup. I got some egg drop in it too. Definitely tastier with the egg drop added. As I ate, I watched the lambs before me. They didn't say anything to express their gratitude, but through the meal I could feel their closeness. I don't know if it was Mansui's idea or a group decision. They probably felt my kindness on the journey, providing food, drink, and safety, so they wanted to show their gratitude with this meal. What kind of person am I to them? I figure at the start me and Tung were pretty much the same. Both of us were human traffickers, with Tung being a bit harsher and me a bit quieter. But as we traveled and experienced more together, they began to see the differences between us. They weren't as scared of me anymore, especially after that bathhouse incident in Wenjiang. The lambs even started bossing me around to do things. Later, I tongue for them, joined their shadow plays and got closer. Started feeling less like a human trafficker, more like an older friend. I don't think there's a wolf in the world who can be friends with sheep. So, if I took them as my friends, then I still call them lambs. Maybe it's time to I see them as kids. In that case, as their grown friend, I can't just send these kids off to be child brides. If that happened, the sisters will be split up, maybe never to see each other again. If that happens, Changhua will never see her parents again and she'll have regrets for the rest of her life. That Mansui, that lass, I can't quite figure her out. I don't know how she'd take it. But I know that isn't what she wants either. I guess that's it then. I really can't do it. I see them as important kids. I'm not cut out to be a wolf. Queer, Hong'er. I called out their names
梁
softly.
爷，杀死！
梁爷，
Swear, is it swear or queer? I feel like I keep saying it wrong. I'm gonna keep saying it the way that I have been saying it. Looked at me curiously. How did the waiter treat you earlier?
小儿挺好的，带俺们去了厨房。
他本来要跟我们做饭，问我们想吃啥。若不是穗儿姐说我们自己做，他就跟我们做饭吃了。
The innkeeper, how was she?
挺好的，我头一回见到这么漂亮的姐姐。
感觉是好姐姐。
One more thing. If you could choose, would you rather go somewhere nice or back home? I asked the critical, final question.
我想回家，想跟爹娘弟弟在一起。
Queer spoke up first, her eyes shining.
翠儿，
Hong'er interrupted her sister.
梁爷，我们想去个好地方，还是不回家了。爹娘和我说过，家里闹了荒，没有饭吃了。我们如果再回家里，会把一家人都连累死。只要我们嫁个好人家，过上好生活，才能活下来，才能以后帮到家里。
Hong'er spoke each word carefully, as if remembering her parents' words. I stayed quiet. Hong'er was wise beyond her years. She knew their family sent them away because they couldn't afford to feed them. It was practically selling them off. Even if they returned, they'd likely be sold again. Guier didn't grasp this, and Hong'er couldn't explain it to her. It's better not to understand some things. But I hope they won't bother coming back to help that family which sold them. That kind of family. What's there to help? Alright, I get your point. Let me ask you one more thing. I said seriously, having made up my mind. I lowered my head, then raised it to meet their eyes. Queer, Hong'er, I've thought about it. I found you a good place. You stay with the innkeeper here, living with that sister for a while. Would you be okay with that? I questioned the two, their eyes widening with a sudden unease.
梁爷，你是要把我们丢在这里吗？
不要，我要和梁爷一起。
No! I knew one of them would say that. After a brief pause, Hong'er's voice quivered as she asked, and tears welled up in Queer's eyes. She had nearly cried when she thought about going home earlier. Now, hearing that I'm going to leave her behind, she wanted to cry even more. No tears, okay? Let me explain. I'm not trying to leave you guys behind. It's just that I was going to drop you off here. I took a job from Yin-san to send you all as child brides. But I thought about it. Sending you as child brides would separate you two. Better for you two to stay together here at the end. After my words, Hong'er and Queer grew quieter. They stared at me, seemingly lost in thought. After a moment, Hong'er spoke up again.
那梁爷之后要走吗？
Yo, this game's tugging at my emotions more than I thought it would. What the fuck? Hong'er raised her eyes, her voice still tinged with tears. Yes, I'll have to leave eventually. I let out a sigh. Got my own stuff to handle. Got some old enemies to dodge. Once I sort you two out, I'm heading south to lay low for a while. I was a bit surprised myself. Surprised myself by being so upfront with the sisters. But you know, I'll remember this inn's location. Maybe one day I'll come back to see you here. When fate allows, people will meet again sooner or later. I told Queer as I gently patted her head. I found myself wearing a forced, gentle smile, a rare sight indeed. The smile felt stiff even to me, yet I somehow managed to make it. I didn't want these girls to cry again.
行，那 我和崔儿都明白了，我愿意留在这客栈内的。梁爷以后一定要回来看我们。
我也愿意留，不想跟姐姐分开。梁爷，还有穗姐姐、花姐姐，以后一定要来看俺们。
Hong Air and Tui Air said to us. Mansui and Qinghua smiled, seeing them like that. Changhua, after confirming Hong Air and Tui Air's attentions, I turned to Changhua.
梁爷，
Changhua looked at me, put down her chopsticks, and fidgeted in her seat. She just heard what I said to the sisters, so likely guessed what I was going to say. I know where you come from. Forget what Yin-san told you. You'll stay here for a while. I'll talk to the innkeeper and try to find your family. If I find them, they can come get you. Now, do you still want to see them? Tears welled up in Changhua's eyes. She bit her lip, her jaw shaking, and her eyelashes trembling. Shortly after, she uttered a word with a tearful voice. This word made her answer clear to me. All right, I'll do it, I said firmly, meeting her gaze. If she wants to see her family, I'll make it happen. Damn right we will!
考虑清楚了。
Okay. After an hour, we finished eating. I met with Kite again, chatting in the lobby. I've thought it over. Going to do the right thing. Those two sisters will stay here. I'll sell them to you for 10 taels and trouble you to take care of them in the future. For Changhua, I'll find her family. Any ideas?
你知道她的出身吗？
Checked. Her father was an official in the capital but got sent to the border for cozying up too much to the Inspector General Yan. Hang tight. I'll pry into her parents' status and report back.
知道她父母的身份后，可以让她先暂留此地。我找人打听她父母的去向，再帮他们联络。
So, should I give you money for finding out and sending letters?
不用了，到时候我跟她父母去要便好。无论是寄信的钱，还是送她回去的路费，都让她父母出吧。
But her parents got exiled to the border. They got money?
按理说，只要不是被发配充军，这点钱都是有的。放心吧，真没有，会不会太为难他们？只要他们还惦记着这个女儿，我就愿意送。
Okay. After hearing Kite's plan for Changhua, I
不
felt
过
better.，
最后那个孩子呢？
Kite looked at me, asking about Mansui. Guess Mansui made quite an impression on her, too. That last wants to go to Luoyang, has her own plans. I don't fully agree, but I'll tag along to Luoyang and chat with her on the way. Heard she's lost all her close kin. I'll try finding some distant relatives around Luoyang. Not, we'll figure something out then, I remarked casually. When it comes to Mansui, that lass, I'm confident. I'm also cautious. On one hand, I trust her smarts. Could find her way out of any mess. But on the other hand, I can't shake the feeling she's hiding something from me, especially with her insistence on going to Luoyang. I need to sit down and have a chat with her, clear the air.
行，我这边正好养不下那么多娃子，你带她走也好。明日我可以帮你们勾兑下驿站的关系，让你们搭一辆货运的马车，这样也好让你们早日到洛阳。
Getting a cargo wagon? Saves walking. Awesome. Thanks. I nodded to Kite, but then I paused, realizing there was something else I needed to ask her. Kite, got one more thing to ask.
什么事？
Know how to get into Haijiao?
知道的。亥州城虽说是封了，但在每日鸡鸣之时，还是会开一次东南门，用于通商。明早你起得来的话，我可以让店小二带你去。不过，只能你一个人去哦。
No problem. Was planning on going alone anyway.
你要进城做什么？
I blinked, puzzled by my sudden trip into the city tomorrow. Just going to the market to buy stuff. Need supplies for the journey, selling the pack horses for money. And since we're parting soon, I'll get them gifts, I awkwardly told Kite. She chuckled softly when she heard me say that. What's amusing? I frowned, wondering why she was laughing.
没什么，只是觉得都那么多年了，你还是没变呀。
Still me?
你还是你。
Oh, this game is so good.
你不是狼，是粮。
Kite smirked and spoke vaguely. Her eyes showed a mix of pity, mockery, and tenderness. Kite's words were nonsense. Calling me a good person who lived up to my name was laughable. I've taken out plenty of people, and even if I stop, the debts I owe will never be repaid in a lifetime. I'm no saint. I'm just a fool who wanted to be a wolf but ended up a half-baked one. That's all. Okay. That's where I'm actually gonna stop for tonight, because that was a long chapter, and I feel like we've got, I think we fit, maybe I won't be able to stream tomorrow night, because tomorrow night I gotta go to my writer's workshop, but I will be back Thursday. I should be back. I called off. I'm using some personal time from work for Thursday night because I'm home alone with my doggie. I cannot leave her alone at night, so I will be here. And yeah, hopefully we finish it Thursday night. This game is, I was very uncertain at the beginning. With a couple of scenes, had me a little like, literally hesitant. With like the personality of our character here, but yes, this game is, I think so far, I think this game does deserve its overwhelmingly positive review. Let's see if it can stick the landing. Or whatever, and keep that ranking in my eyes. Clay, thank you for hanging. I will be back Thursday night with maybe the end of this. Farewell. My voice is done.